Hi, I'm Sarah, a 28-year-old graphic designer who loves being creative, and I'm also expecting a baby. Right now, I'm standing in my living room, surrounded by yellow and green decorations. My best friend Emily is up on a ladder, hanging the last of the welcome baby banners. Emily, you're a lifesaver, I say, rubbing my big belly. I don't know how I would have pulled off this gender-neutral baby shower without you. She smiles down at me. That's what best friends are for, Mama. Plus, I love driving your mother-in-law crazy with all this yellow and green. I can't help but laugh. Oh, don't remind me. Linda's been texting me non-stop about the baby's gender. If she sends me one more old wives' tale about how to tell if it's a boy or girl, I'm going to lose it. Just then, my phone buzzes. Speak of the devil, is that her again? Emily asks as she climbs down the ladder. I nod and show her the screen. She wants to know if I'm craving salty or sweet foods. Apparently, that's a foolproof way to tell the baby's gender. Emily rolls her eyes. I swear, that woman needs a hobby. Tell me about it, I say, putting my phone down. Mark's trying to keep her calm, but you know how she is. As if on cue, my husband Mark walks in, looking a bit stressed. Hey, babe, the nursery's all set up. My dad's bringing over the last of the furniture later. Thanks, hun. How's your mom handling all of this? He runs a hand through his hair. Well, she's persistent, but don't worry, I've told her 100 times we're keeping it a surprise. Good luck with that, Emily says with a smirk. Just then, the doorbell rings. It's my parents, Robert and Carol, their arms full of gifts and snacks for the shower. Oh, sweetie, the place looks wonderful, Robert says, putting down the boxes with a big smile. Your mother's right, you've done a great job, kiddo. As we're chatting, Mark's phone starts ringing. He looks at it and sighs. It's Mom again. I better take this, Mark says as he steps out, trying to calm Linda down. Emily comes over to me with a grin. $10 says she's trying to get him to spill the beans about the baby's gender. I shake my head. No bet, that's a sure loss. As the day goes on, more friends and family arrive to help set up. The house is filled with excitement, but I can't shake the feeling that Linda is up to something. Every time Mark's phone rings, I get a little more nervous. Later that evening, while Mark and I are getting ready for bed, I decide to bring it up. Hun, is your mom okay? She seems extra intense about the gender thing. Mark sighs and pulls me close. You know how she is, she just wants to be involved. But don't worry, I've got it under control. I nod, trying to believe him, but as I drift off to sleep, I can't help but wonder what Linda might have planned for the baby shower tomorrow. The morning of the shower, I wake up feeling both excited and nervous. As I'm getting ready, Mark walks in, looking anxious. Hey, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. He runs a hand through his hair. I just got off the phone with my mom. She's acting strange, stranger than usual. She kept talking about having a big surprise for us. I don't like the sound of that, I say, trying to brush it off but feeling uneasy. As guests start arriving, I push my worries aside and focus on enjoying the party. This spread looks amazing, Sarah, my friend Rachel says, eyeing the buffet. Thanks, Emily really outdid herself with the planning, I reply. Just then, Emily rushes over, looking flustered. Sarah, we've got a problem. The cake decorator mixed up our order. The cake says it's a boy. What? No, this can't be happening. Don't worry, I've got a plan, Emily assures me. We'll just scrape off the boy part and replace it with baby. Crisis averted. As we're fixing the cake issue, the doorbell rings. Mark goes to answer it, and I hear his shocked voice. Mom, what's all this? I turn to see Linda barging in, followed by a small group of people I didn't recognize. She was holding a bunch of blue balloons, and a man in a white coat stood beside her. Surprise, darling, Linda sang out. I've brought the party to you. What's going on, Linda? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Well, since you two are being so stubborn about keeping the gender a secret, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Dr. Thompson, a sonogram expert extraordinaire, she announced, gesturing to the man in the white coat, who gave an awkward wave. Mom, what are you doing? Mark hissed, clearly upset. I'm revealing the truth. Dear, it's a boy, and I have proof, Linda declared, pulling out a folder and waving it around. I have the latest sonogram pictures right here. Dr. Thompson will examine them and confirm what I already know. I felt my face flush with anger and embarrassment. Linda, that's enough. This is our baby, our choice. You have no right. Oh, pish posh, Linda interrupted. I'm the grandmother. I have every right to know. Emily quickly stepped in, trying to calm things down. Hey, everyone, why don't we move on to some fun baby shower games? I've got a great one where we guess the baby's birthday. But Linda wasn't having it. She marched over to Dr. Thompson and shoved the folder into his hands. Go on, doctor, tell them what you see. The poor man looked terrified. I'm not sure I should. Of course, you should, Linda insisted. I paid you good money for this. The room gasped, and Mark's face turned pale. You did what? Linda realized her mistake too late. Oh, fine, yes, I paid him, and I've been talking to your obstetrician too, Sarah, trying to get the truth out of her, but she wouldn't budge, even when I offered her a very generous donation. I felt sick to my stomach. You tried to bribe my doctor, Linda? That's illegal. The room erupted into chaos as Mark started arguing with his mother. How could you do this, Mom? This is a complete violation of our privacy. I was just trying to help. You two are being ridiculous with all this secrecy. I can't take it anymore, Linda shot back. Overwhelmed, I stormed out of the room and locked myself in the nursery. As I sat there, surrounded by the soft yellows and greens we had chosen, I could still hear the commotion continuing outside. This was supposed to be a happy day, but it turned into a complete nightmare. It's been 3 days since the baby shower disaster, and I'm still shaken. I'm sitting at our kitchen table, staring at my phone when Mark walks in. How are you holding up, babe? Honestly, I feel awful. Your mom violated our privacy, possibly broke the law, and ruined what was supposed to be a special day. Mark sighs, running his hands through his hair. I know, and I'm so sorry. I've been trying to talk to her, but she's just not listening. Just then, my phone buzzes. It's Emily. Hey, what's up? Sarah, you're not going to believe this. Remember that Dr. Thompson from the shower? I did some digging. He's not a doctor at all. He's an actor Linda hired. I nearly dropped my phone. Are you serious? How did you find out? I recognized him from a local theater production. I called the theater, and they confirmed it. His real name is Steve Daniels. I relay the information to Mark, and his face turns red with anger. That's it. I'm calling my mom right now. He puts the phone on speaker as Linda answers. Hello, dear. Have you come to your senses about the gender reveal yet? Cut the crap. Mom, we know about the fake doctor. How could you do this? There's a pause before Linda responds, her voice defiant. I did what I had to do. You two were being ridiculous with all this secrecy. I can't hold back anymore. Linda, you had no right. You violated our privacy and potentially broke the law. Oh, please. I'm the grandmother. I have every right to know about my grandchild. Mark's voice is ice cold. No, Mom, you don't. And until you can understand that and apologize, we're going to need some space. He hangs up, leaving a tense silence in the kitchen. I need to file a complaint with the hospital. I say, if she tried to bribe my doctor, who knows what information she might have gotten. Mark nods. I'll go with you. We need to get to the bottom of this. The next day, we're sitting in the hospital administrator's office. The woman across from us looks serious. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I want to assure you that we take patient privacy very seriously. We'll conduct a full investigation into this matter. As we're leaving, Mark's phone rings. It's his dad. George, son, we need to talk. Can you and Sarah come over? When we arrive at Mark's childhood home, George looks tired and upset. I'm so sorry, both of you. I have something I need to show you. He leads us to his study and pulls out a box filled with papers. Your mother. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. I've been keeping track over the years. She's always had trouble respecting boundaries, especially when it comes to family. Mark looked stunned. Dad, Why didn't you ever say anything? George sighed. I thought I could manage her behavior, but after what happened at the shower, I realize I've been enabling her. It's time for this to stop. He handed us the box, and inside, we found letters, emails, and even legal documents detailing Linda's past manipulative behavior. There was an incident at your cousin Jenny's wedding, George explained. Linda tried to change the venue without telling anyone because she didn't like the original choice. And when your brother Tom was applying to colleges, she submitted applications in his name to schools he didn't want to attend. I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. George, thank you for showing us this. It helps to know we're not alone in dealing with her behavior. Mark put his arm around me, his voice determined. We're going to get through this, Sarah, together. And we're going to make sure our baby is protected from this kind of manipulation. After reviewing the evidence George gave us, Mark and I sat in our living room, trying to decide our next move. I can't believe it's come to this, but I think we need to take legal action, I said. Mark nodded, looking resolute. You're right, we need to protect our family. I'll call a lawyer first thing tomorrow. The next day, we met with Attorney Johnson in her office. Based on what you've told me, we have grounds for a restraining order and possibly charges for invasion of privacy and harassment, she said. What about the hospital? Shouldn't they be held accountable too? I asked. Let's start with the restraining order against Linda. We'll address the hospital situation separately. A week later, we received a call from the hospital administrator. Mrs. Johnson, we've completed our investigation. I'm deeply sorry to inform you that one of our nurses, under pressure from your mother-in-law, did leak some of your confidential information? I felt my blood boil. What's being done about this? The nurse has been terminated, and we're implementing stricter privacy protocols. We'd like to issue a formal apology and discuss compensation for this breach. After hanging up, I turned to Mark. Well, at least they're taking it seriously. Small consolation, he grumbled, but it's something. Weeks passed, and finally, we found ourselves in the courtroom. Linda sat at the defendant's table, looking defiant. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. Our lawyer presented the evidence, the fake sonogram expert, the attempted bribery, the leaked medical information, and George's documentation of past incidents. Linda's lawyer tried to paint her actions as those of an overzealous grandmother, but the judge wasn't buying it. Mrs. Linda Johnson, this court finds you guilty of harassment and invasion of privacy. You are hereby fined $10,000 and ordered to attend mandatory therapy sessions to address your controlling behavior, the judge declared. I squeezed Mark's hand as the judge continued. Furthermore, a restraining order is granted. You are to have no contact with Sarah and Mark Johnson unless they initiate it. As we left the courthouse, Mark turned to me, his eyes filled with remorse. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up to her years ago. I promise, from now on, our family comes first, always. We're in this together. Mark, we'll get through it, I reassured him. Months passed, and the big day finally arrived. In the delivery room, with Mark by my side, our beautiful baby boy came into the world. As I held our son for the first time, I couldn't help but smile. He's perfect, Sarah, absolutely perfect, Mark whispered. George, holding his grandson, beamed with pride. He's got your eyes, Sarah, and Mark's nose, Emily added with a laugh. Surrounded by our friends and family, I looked at Mark and our son, feeling a deep sense of peace and strength. We had been through so much, but we emerged stronger, ready to protect our little family from any toxic influences. Now that our story has come to an end, I have a question for you. If you were in my shoes, would you ever consider forgiving Linda and allowing her back into your child's life? Or do you believe that some actions are truly unforgivable when it comes to protecting your family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences and opinions matter and might help others facing similar situations. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue sharing these real-life dramas.
The first sign that my life was imploding came in the form of a credit card statement that wasn't supposed to exist. I found it wedged between the pages of Alejandro's legal briefs while organizing his home office, a task he'd always insisted on doing himself. Until today. My name is Ava, and I'm a financial planner who somehow missed the biggest financial fraud happening right under my nose. The irony isn't lost on me. Honey, did you need any help with that? Alejandro called from downstairs, his voice carrying that forced casualness that I'd been picking up on lately, but couldn't quite place. No, I'm good, I called back, my hands trembling as I stared at the statement. 4-star hotels, jewelry stores, romantic restaurants, all in the past 3 months. None of them with me. My phone buzzed. A text from Kayla. Still on for lunch tomorrow. Miss you. Haven't seen you in forever. But tonight, in the darkness of our bedroom, I made myself a promise. They thought they were so clever, the lawyer and the backstabbing best friend, playing the long game. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. Numbers were my language, evidence was my ammunition, and revenge would be my masterpiece. I turned away from Alejandro and smiled into my pillow. They wanted to play? Game on. Mrs. Hayes, I have to say, this is one of the most meticulously documented cases I've seen, Sampson said, adjusting his tie as he reviewed the files I'd brought to his office. Most people in your situation come to me with suspicions. You've brought me a roadmap. I'd chosen him specifically because he specialized in financial fraud and had never lost a case against my husband's law firm. I need to know what my options are. First, he leaned forward, we need to secure your assets. Today. How much time do we have? Based on the patterns I've found, they're planning to leave after the Henderson payout. That's in 3 weeks. Sampson whistled. Ambitious. They're looking at what, 2 million? 2.3. I pulled out my laptop. And that's just the obvious part. Look at this. I showed him the trail I'd uncovered. A series of small transfers to an offshore account, disguised as business expenses. Alejandro had been careful, but he'd underestimated my attention to detail. My phone buzzed. Kayla again. Lunch was amazing yesterday. We should do it more often before you get too busy with work. Lunch had been a masterclass in acting. I'd sat there, smiling and nodding as she talked about her upcoming business trip, the same week as Alejandro's legal conference in the Cayman Islands. Your friend's not very subtle, Sampson observed. No, she isn't. I showed him the text. But she's useful. Every message is another piece of evidence. Okay, he started typing on his computer. First, we file for an emergency freeze on all joint assets. Then, my phone rang. Lisa, he's asking questions, she said without preamble. He just called me about getting together for your birthday planning. Perfect. Keep him busy. I need another hour here. Already on it. I've invited him to help me pick out your gift. We're meeting at the mall in 20 minutes. You're the best. Sampson raised an eyebrow as I hung up. Reliable sister? The most. I turned back to the documents. What's our next step? We need to document everything without tipping them off. Your neighbor, Emerson, was it? The one who saw them together? We'll need her statement. Already got it. I pulled out a sealed envelope. Notarized this morning. A notification popped up on my phone. A bank alert. Another transfer attempt from our joint account to the offshore one. Look at this, I showed Sampson. They're getting bolder. Or desperate. He studied the notification. This works in our favor. Each attempt strengthens our case. I spent the next hour signing papers, transferring funds to secure accounts, and laying the groundwork for what was coming. By the time I left Sampson's office, the first phase was in motion. My phone buzzed with a text from Alejandro. Your sister is impossible to shop for you with. Miss you? Dinner tonight? Can't wait, I replied, adding a heart emoji. Where should we go? That new Italian place? The same restaurant where he'd taken Kayla last week, according to the credit card statement. Perfect. That evening, I dressed carefully. The blue dress he loved, hair down the way he preferred. As I applied my lipstick, another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Sampson. Papers filed, assets secured, green light for phase 2. Alejandro was waiting downstairs, keys in hand. You look beautiful. Thank you. I kissed his cheek. noting the faint trace of perfume that wasn't mine. "Shall we?" At the restaurant, he was the perfect husband, attentive, charming, ordering my favorite wine. I watched him perform, marveling at how I'd never noticed the calculation behind his smile. "Everything okay?" he asked. "You seem quiet." "Just thinking about work. The Henderson account is taking up all my mental space." His fork paused halfway to his mouth. "The Henderson account? Any issues?" I almost laughed. My best friend since college, texting me like nothing was wrong, while her name was all over these receipts. Restaurant charges for two, always when I was at my weekly client meetings, always with Alejandro's card. "You sure you don't need help?" Alejandro's footsteps were coming up the stairs now. I slipped the statement into my jacket pocket. "Actually, I'm feeling a bit hungry. Want to order in?" "No, everything's right on schedule." I smiled. "The payout's actually coming a week earlier than planned. Isn't that great?" I watched the panic flash in his eyes before he covered it with a smile. "That's wonderful, honey." Later that night, as he slept, I checked my phone one last time. 3 new messages. From Kayla. "Girls' night soon, before my business trip?" From Lisa. "He spent 2 hours looking at jewelry he's never going to give you. Oscar-worthy performance from me, BTW." And from Samson. "Everything in place. They won't know what hit them." I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, listening to Alejandro's steady breathing beside me. 3 more weeks of this charade. 3 weeks of smiles and kisses and careful documentation. Then we'd see who was really the better player at this game. "They're in there right now," Emerson whispered, peeking through her kitchen window that overlooked the coffee shop across the street. 3rd time this week. I stood beside her, watching Alejandro and Kayla sitting at their corner table, heads close together over what looked like documents. My husband had told me he was in court all morning. "Want me to record them again?" Emerson asked, phone already in hand. "Please, and thank you for doing this." "Are you kidding? After what they did to Marcus last year?" She pressed record. "Your husband was his divorce lawyer while sleeping with his wife. They deserve everything coming to them." That was news to me. "Marcus from the hardware store?" "Yep. Lost everything in the settlement. Had to move back in with his parents." I filed that information away for later. "Send the video to my secure email?" "Already done." Emerson turned from the window. "Coffee?" As we sat at her kitchen counter, my phone lit up with an email notification. Not my regular account. The one I'd created using the fake name I'd found in Alejandro's documents. The same one he and Kayla had been using to communicate. "Holy shit!" I muttered, reading the email. "What is it?" "They're not waiting for the Henderson payout. They're moving up their timeline." I showed her the email chain I'd managed to access. "They're leaving next week." "But you said—" "Nah, I know. I fed them false information about an early payout. They took the bait." I grabbed my phone and dialed Samson. "I saw the emails," he said before I could speak. "We're ready. Everything's in place. Move it up, all of it, today." "Today? Ava, are you sure?" Through the window, I watched Kayla laugh at something Alejandro said. "Absolutely sure." After hanging up, I texted Lisa. "It's happening today. You ready?" Her response was immediate. "Born ready, heading to her house now." Emerson touched my arm. "What can I do?" "Keep recording. I need to make a call." I stepped onto her back porch and dialed a number I'd memorized weeks ago. It rang twice. "Mrs. Rodriguez? This is Ava Hayes. About that investment opportunity we discussed. I'm in." Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus's mother, had been waiting for this call. Within minutes, everything was arranged. Back inside, Emerson was still watching the coffee shop. "They're leaving." I checked my watch. Right on schedule. "Thank you for everything," I told her. "I need to go." "Wait." She grabbed my arm. "There's something else you should know. Last week, when they were here, I overheard them talking about other accounts. Multiple ones." "Show me." She pulled up another video on her phone. The audio was faint, but clear enough. Alejandro and Kayla discussing account numbers, dates, amounts, all carefully documented by my vigilant neighbor. Send it to Samson, I said, already heading for the door. And Emerson, when this is over, I'm buying you a better camera. I drove to my office, where my team had been prepped for weeks. They knew what to do without me having to say a word. As I walked in, Sarah from accounting handed me a stack of papers. All the transfers are flagged, she said. Every single one. Perfect. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. Let's begin. The next few hours were a blur of phone calls, emails, and document signing. By 3 o'clock, everything was in position. My phone buzzed. Lisa. In position at Kayla's. You won't believe what I found. Another buzz. Samson. Court order secured. Standing by. And then, right on cue, Alejandro. Working late tonight, honey. Big case. I smiled at my phone. No problem. I'll be working late too. The Henderson account needs attention. He appeared in the doorway, handsome as ever in his casual weekend wear. I have that dinner meeting tonight, remember? The Morrison case? Right, of course. I smiled, wondering if the Morrison case had perfect blonde hair and wore the perfume I'd gifted Kayla last Christmas. No problem. I'll heat up some leftovers. His response came quickly. Don't work too hard. Love you. I put my phone down and looked at the time. In about an hour, Alejandro would discover that his access to our accounts had been revoked. Shortly after that, he'd learn about the court order freezing all assets, including the ones he thought I didn't know about. And Kayla? By now, Lisa would have gathered enough evidence from her house to destroy any chance of them claiming innocence. My phone rang again. This time, it was Marcus. Mom told me what's happening, he said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. No, you don't understand. After what they did, just thank you. I ended the call and stood up, walking to my office window. Across the street, I could see Alejandro's law firm. Any minute now, he'd be getting a very interesting package of documents. My phone buzzed one final time. Samson. It's done. Ready when you are. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Time to go watch their world burn. The first call came exactly 17 minutes after the documents were delivered. I watched my phone vibrate across my desk, Alejandro's face lighting up the screen. I let it ring. He's trying to access the Henderson account, Sarah reported from her computer. System's denying him. My phone buzzed again. Kayla this time. Ava, please call me. It's urgent. The office door burst open. Lisa strode in, holding up a USB drive like a trophy. You're not going to believe what I found at Kayla's place. Tell me. Not just your accounts. She plugged the drive into my computer. They've done this before. 3 times. Different cities, different victims. Always the same pattern. Photos filled my screen. Documents, bank statements, letters. A systematic trail of destruction across state lines. My phone kept buzzing. Alejandro, Kayla, Alejandro again. Ms. Hayes? My assistant poked her head in. Mr. Hayes is in the lobby. He's quite insistent. I straightened my jacket. Perfect timing. Lisa, send everything to Samson. Sarah, start the trace on those other accounts. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, I saw him pacing the lobby, running his hands through his hair. A tell I'd learned meant he was panicking. Ava! He rushed toward me. There's been a mistake. The accounts are frozen? I smiled. No mistake. He stopped short, his face changing as realization hit. How long have you known? Long enough. I nodded to security. Mr. Hayes was just leaving. Ava, please. Let me explain. Explain what? The offshore accounts? The plans with Kayla? Or should we talk about Marcus first? He paled. Marcus? And the others before him. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? His phone chimed. He checked it, cursed, then looked at me with desperate eyes. Whatever you think you know? I know everything. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Every account, every meeting, every lie. And in about 10 minutes, so will the Bar Association. As if on cue, his phone exploded with notifications. I watched his face as he read them, saw the moment he realized it was all falling apart. You can't do this, he whispered. I already have. He grabbed my arm. You'll destroy everything! Security moved forward, but I held up my hand. No, Alejandro. You did that yourself. Now, would you like to leave on your own, or should these gentlemen help you? He let go, straightened his tie, tried to recover his dignity. This isn't over. Actually, it is. Oh, and Alejandro, I called as he turned to leave. Say hi to Kayla for me. She might want to check her own accounts. The moment he was gone, my phone rang. Samson, it's done, he said. The Bar Association has everything. So does the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. And Kayla? Her firm just received an interesting package about employee fraud. I'd say her partnership track is effectively over. I ended the call and turned to Lisa, who'd appeared beside me. Ready for phase 2? She grinned. Marcus and his parents are waiting at Samson's office, along with some other interested parties. My phone buzzed again. A text from Emerson. They're at the coffee shop, both of them, looking pretty frantic. Good, I checked my watch. Time to pay them a visit. Want backup? Lisa asked. No, this part I need to do alone. The coffee shop was 3 blocks away. I walked slowly, letting them stew in their panic. Through the window, I could see them huddled in their usual corner, phones out, faces pale. Later that night, I sat in our kitchen, laptop open, methodically going through our joint accounts. 12 years of marriage, and I trusted him to handle our personal finances while I managed everyone else's money. Another bitter irony. My phone rang. It was Lisa, my sister. Hey, what's up? I tried to keep my voice steady. Ava, are you okay? You sound weird. I hesitated. Lisa had never liked Alejandro. Can you come over? The bell chimed as I pushed open the door. They both looked up, and for a moment, nobody moved. Ava, Kayla started, standing. We can explain. Sit down. My voice was ice. She sat. I pulled up a chair, noting how they instinctively leaned away from me. So let's talk about Marcus. Who? Kayla's confusion was almost convincing. Don't. I placed my phone on the table, started playing a recording. Their voices filled the space between us, discussing their previous schemes, their plans, their victims. Where did you get that? Alejandro demanded. Does it matter? I have everything. The accounts in Arizona, the couple in Oregon, all of it. Kayla started to cry. Alejandro reached for my hand. I pulled back. Please, he said. We can fix this. No, we can't. I stood up. But don't worry. I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to think about it. The FBI tends to be thorough with their investigations. As I walked out, I heard Kayla call my name. I didn't look back. My phone buzzed with a message from Samson. Marcus and the others are ready. Time to finish this. I smiled, hailed a cab, and headed toward the next phase of their destruction. Sometimes karma needed a little help, and I was more than happy to assist. Samson's conference room was packed. Marcus sat at one end of the long table, his parents beside him. Next to them were 2 couples I'd never met in person, the victims from Arizona and Oregon. Their faces showed the same mix of anger and betrayal I saw in my mirror every morning. They're running, Lisa announced, bursting into the room. Emerson just saw them leaving the coffee shop with suitcases, headed to the airport. I smiled. Right on schedule. Should we stop them? Marcus asked, half rising from his chair. No need. I nodded to Samson, who pulled up a live feed on the conference room screen. Airport security cameras showed Alejandro and Kayla rushing through the terminal. Their passports have been flagged, Samson explained. They're not going anywhere. We watched as they approached the international departures counter. Even without audio, we could see the moment everything fell apart. The confused looks, the frantic phone calls, the arrival of airport security. Is that... The woman from Oregon leaned forward. Are they being arrested? Not yet. I checked my watch. That comes next. Right on cue, 2 FBI agents appeared on screen. We watched in silence as Alejandro and Kayla were led away, their luggage abandoned at the counter. Holy shit, Marcus whispered. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us. Your documentation helped build the case. The woman from Arizona, Janet, wiped tears from her eyes. When you contacted us, I couldn't believe it was happening again, that they were still doing this. They were good at covering their tracks, her husband added, but not good enough. My phone buzzed, a call from an unknown number. Alejandro, probably using his one phone call. I declined it. What happens now? Marcus asked. Samson stood up, straightening his tie. Now we move forward with the civil suits. Ms. Hayes has already agreed to testify about their financial schemes. With the evidence we've gathered, plus their attempted flight, we have an extremely strong case. And the criminal charges? Marcus's father leaned forward. FBI's handling those. Wire fraud across state lines, conspiracy, multiple counts of financial fraud. They're looking at serious time. Another buzz from my phone. Kayla this time, using her call to send a text. Please, Ava, don't do this. We can work something out. I showed the message to Lisa, who snorted. The audacity. I have something you all need to see, I said, pulling out my laptop. Lisa found this at Kayla's house. It's their playbook. Detailed notes on how they selected their targets, how they manipulated accounts, everything. The room fell silent as I played the video files. Secret recordings Kayla had kept as insurance against Alejandro. Hours of them planning their schemes, laughing about their victims, counting their stolen money. Turn it off, Janet whispered. I can't watch anymore. I closed the laptop. I'm sorry, I know this is difficult, but we needed you to see who they really are. What about our money? The Oregon husband, David, asked quietly. 20 minutes later, we sat at my kitchen island. The evidence spread out before us. That lying, cheating bastard, Lisa whispered, scanning the documents. And Kayla? You're Kayla? I'll kill them both. No, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. I have a better idea. Ava. Did you know, I said, pulling up our investment portfolio, that Alejandro gave me power of attorney over all our accounts last year? He said it was easier since I'm the financial expert. Already traced, Samson replied. Once the FBI finishes their investigation, we can begin recovery proceedings. Ms. Hayes has already offered to help navigate the financial aspects. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emerson. Their families are at your house, looking pretty angry. Let them be angry, I texted back. The security cameras will catch everything. The conference room door opened, and an FBI agent stepped in. We're ready for your statements now. Who'd like to go first? One by one, they left to tell their stories. I stayed behind with Lisa, watching the airport footage loop on the screen. You okay? She asked softly. Better than okay. I turned to her. But there's one more thing we need to do. What's that? I pulled up an email on my phone, the one I'd been drafting all morning. Send this to every law firm and financial institution in the state. They need to know who they're really dealing with. Lisa read it over my shoulder, whistling low. This will destroy their careers. Permanently. Good. My phone lit up with another message, a video from the security company. Alejandro's parents were at my front door, shouting and demanding answers. I forwarded it directly to Samson. More evidence, I said, standing up. Ready to give your statement? Born ready. Lisa linked her arm through mine. But first, want to grab coffee? The shop across from your house has a great view of the show. I thought about it. About sitting there, watching their families realize the truth, just like I had weeks ago. But that wasn't who I wanted to be. No, I said finally. Let's give our statements and go home. They're not worth any more of our time. We walked out of the conference room, leaving the airport footage playing behind us. On screen, Alejandro and Kayla were led away in handcuffs, their perfect escape plan in ruins. Sometimes karma needed a push, and sometimes that push came with handcuffs and an FBI escort. The preliminary hearing was set for a crisp Monday morning. I sat in Samson's office, watching him review the final documents while Lisa paced behind me. "They're offering a deal," Samson said, sliding a paper across his desk. "Full restitution to all victims, written confessions, in exchange for reduced charges." "They're desperate," Lisa scoffed. "They know they're screwed." My phone lit up with a message from Marcus. "Just got the call about the deal. What should we do?" Before I could respond, Samson's assistant burst in. "Mr. Hayes is here. Says he needs to speak with Ms. Hayes immediately." "No," Lisa started, but I held up my hand. "Let him in." Alejandro looked different after a week in custody. Rumpled suit, unshaven face, dark circles under his eyes. The swagger was gone. "5 minutes," he said, glancing nervously at Samson. "Alone." "Absolutely not," Lisa snapped. "It's okay," I said, standing. "We'll use the conference room, with the cameras." Once inside, Alejandro slumped into a chair. "You have to help me." "I don't have to do anything." "Oh, Ava, please. They're talking about serious time, years. And Kayla, she's turning on me." I laughed. "Of course she is. That's what happens when you build a relationship on lies." "It wasn't all lies." He reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back. "What we had was a fraud." I pushed the deal papers toward him. "Like everything else about you. I'll sign whatever you want. Give back everything. Just help me make this go away." "Make it go away?" I leaned forward. "Like you did with Marcus, or Janet and David?" He flinched. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You and Kayla had a system. Find successful, trusting people. Infiltrate their lives. Steal everything. Move on." I stood up. "But you got sloppy. Got too confident." "What do you want?" His voice cracked. "Name your price." "I want you to look at this." I pulled out my phone, showed him the video Lisa had found, him and Kayla laughing about their victims, planning their next moves. "Where did you get that?" "Your precious Kayla kept receipts. Lots of them. Insurance, she called it." The color drained from his face. "She recorded everything?" "Everything." I put my phone away. "The FBI has it all now. So does the Bar Association. And tomorrow, the court will have it too." Lisa's eyes widened. "Oh my God. They've been planning this for months. Look at these transfers. Small enough to fly under the radar, but they add up. They're planning to leave." I showed her the pattern I'd discovered. "Next month, probably, after the Henderson account pays out." "How can you be so calm?" I wasn't calm. I was nuclear. But rage could wait. "Because I'm good at my job, Lisa. Really good. And they have no idea that I know." He buried his face in his hands. "I'll lose everything. Now you know how it feels." A knock at the door. Samson. "Time's up." "Sign the deal," I said, walking to the door. "It's the best you're going to get." "Wait!" He grabbed the papers. "What about Kayla? Will she sign too?" "She already did, an hour ago." I smiled at his shocked expression. "Turns out she's better at saving herself than saving you." Back in Samson's office, Lisa was waiting with news. "Kayla's lawyer just called. She's giving them everything. Names, dates, account numbers." "Good." I checked my watch. "The others will be here soon for the final briefing." "Are you sure you want to do this?" Samson asked. "The deal would be cleaner, faster." "They don't deserve clean or fast." I looked out his window at the courthouse across the street. "They deserve to face every person they hurt." My phone buzzed. Emerson. "Just saw Kayla's parents going into the courthouse. They look devastated." Another message followed quickly, from Janet. "We're here, in the lobby, ready when you are." I gathered my things, straightened my jacket. "Let's go. Everyone's waiting." The courthouse lobby was packed. Marcus and his parents stood with Janet and David. The Oregon couple huddled with their lawyer. And there, by the entrance, stood Kayla's parents, looking lost and broken. "Mrs. Parker," I said, approaching Kayla's mother. "I'm sorry you're learning about your daughter this way." She grabbed my arm. "Is it true? All of it?" "Yes. And there's more, much more." She started to cry. Her husband led her away, but not before whispering, "Thank you for stopping them." Samson appeared at my side. "They're ready for us." As we walked toward the courtroom, I saw Alejandro being led in through a side door, hands cuffed. Our eyes met briefly. He looked away first. Lisa squeezed my hand. "Ready?" I thought about the past few weeks, the discoveries, the pain, the careful planning. Thought about Marcus losing everything, Janet's tears, David's quiet anger. Thought about every person these two had hurt in their quest for easy money. "Ready," I said, pushing open the courtroom doors. "Let's finish this." Behind me, I heard Alejandro's voice one last time. "Ava, please." But I kept walking. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's making sure everyone hears it. The courtroom fell silent as the video played on the large screen. Kayla's voice filled the room. "It's so easy. They trust us completely. Alejandro handles the legal side. I play the friend, and they never see it coming." I watched the judge's face darken as the evidence unfolded. Beside me, Janet gripped her husband's hand. Behind us, Marcus's parents whispered furiously. "Turn it off!" Kayla shouted from her seat. "That was private." "Private like the lives you destroyed?" Marcus stood up, but his father pulled him back down. The judge banged her gavel. "Order, Miss Clark. One more outburst and you'll be removed." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Kayla. "Found the perfect birthday gift for you. Can't wait to give it to you next week." Lisa read the text over my shoulder and swore. "The nerve of that bye." "Let her play her game," I interrupted, already formulating a plan. "I'll play mine." "What are you going to do?" I closed my laptop and looked at my sister. "First, I'm having lunch with my best friend tomorrow. Then I'm going to visit a lawyer, not one from Alejandro's firm. After that?" I managed a smile that felt more like baring teeth. "After that, I'm going to make sure they regret ever thinking they could outsmart me." "Need backup?" "Always." After Lisa left, I went upstairs and lay down next to my sleeping husband. He'd come home late, smelling of his business dinner. Tomorrow, he'd wake up to his loving, unsuspecting wife. He'd kiss me goodbye, go to work, and continue plotting with my best friend to steal my money and break my heart. Alejandro sat separately from Kayla, his attorney looking increasingly defeated as each piece of evidence was presented. The offshore accounts, the falsified documents, the trail of broken lives across 3 states. Samson stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to call our first witness." I walked to the stand, feeling their eyes on me. Kayla wouldn't look at me, but Alejandro stared, silently pleading. "Ms. Hayes," Samson began, "when did you first suspect something was wrong?" "Objection!" Alejandro's lawyer jumped up. "Relevance?" "Overruled." The judge leaned forward. "Continue." I described finding the credit card statement, uncovering the patterns, discovering their previous victims. With each detail, I watched their facades crumble further. "And these accounts?" Samson held up bank statements. "Can you explain their significance?" "Those are the transfer records showing how they moved money between victims. They used my financial expertise without my knowledge, copying my investment strategies to make their fraud look legitimate." "You lying bitch!" Kayla shot up, face contorted. "You knew! You had to know!" "Remove her," the judge ordered. As bailiffs led Kayla out, she screamed accusations until the doors closed behind her. Alejandro's attorney stood. "Your Honor, in light of this evidence, we'd like to change our plea." The courtroom erupted. Marcus pumped his fist. Janet burst into tears. Lisa squeezed my shoulder from her seat behind me. "Quiet!" the judge commanded. "Mr. Hayes, you wish to change your plea to guilty?" Alejandro nodded, defeated. "Yes, Your Honor." What followed was a blur of legal proceedings, victim impact statements, and final testimonies. Janet described losing her life savings. David talked about his children's college funds disappearing. Marcus faced Alejandro directly, describing how the betrayal had nearly destroyed his family. Finally, the judge spoke. "Never in my 20 years on the bench have I seen such calculated cruelty, such deliberate destruction of lives and trust." She shuffled her papers, looked directly at Alejandro. "Mr. Hayes, As an officer of the court, your actions are particularly egregious. Ms. Clark, though not present, shares equal culpability. The sentence came down like thunder. 15 years for each of them. No possibility of early release. Full restitution to all victims. Permanent disbarment for Alejandro. This court is adjourned. As they led Alejandro away, he called out, "Ava, please!" I turned to him one last time. "Goodbye, Alejandro." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Samson handled the press, while Lisa shepherded me through the crowd. But before we could leave, Kayla's mother approached. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, hugging me tightly. "We had no idea." "None of us did," I said gently. That's how they operated. Marcus caught up with us at the bottom of the steps. "Thank you for everything. We're having dinner tonight. All of us victims, I mean. Would you join us?" I looked at the group, Janet and David, the Oregon couple, Marcus and his parents. People brought together by tragedy, united in justice. "I'd like that." My phone buzzed. Emerson. "Just saw the news. Congratulations. Wine at my place later?" Before I could reply, another message came through, from an unknown number. A text from Kayla's prison phone. "You'll regret this. We were friends." Lisa read it over my shoulder. "Want me to handle it?" "No need." I blocked the number. Some friendships aren't worth keeping. As we walked to our cars, Janet fell into step beside me. "What will you do now?" "I'm starting a foundation," I said, "to help people identify and recover from financial fraud, using my experience to prevent others from going through this." "Count me in," Marcus called from behind us. "Whatever you need." The others joined in, offering support, resources, connections. In that moment, standing in the fading sunlight with these survivors, I felt something shift inside me. "First," I said, "let's have dinner, share our stories. Then tomorrow, we start helping others write better endings to theirs." Lisa linked her arm through mine as we walked away from the courthouse. Behind us, justice had been served. Ahead of us lay purpose, healing, and the chance to turn pain into protection for others. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning, it's using that victory to make sure no one else loses. And that's how financial predators operate, I concluded, facing the packed auditorium. They don't look like criminals. They look like your friends, your spouse, your trusted advisors. Hands shot up across the room. A woman in the front row stood without waiting to be called on. "How do you do this? Face people after everything that happened?" "Because every person in this room represents someone who won't become a victim." I gestured to Marcus, standing by the side door. "And because I'm not alone." After the presentation, Marcus helped me pack up, while Lisa handled the line of people waiting to speak with me. "Third presentation this week," he said, coiling cables. "The foundation's really taking off." "Speaking of which," I pulled out my tablet. Janet called. 2 more cases just came in, similar pattern to ours. "Want me to handle the initial interviews?" "Please." "And David's team identified some suspicious transfers in Oregon. Could you—" My phone buzzed. A call from Samson. "Hold that thought." "Just got word," Samson said without preamble. "Kayla's trying to appeal her sentence." "Let me guess. Claiming she was manipulated by Alejandro?" "Exactly. But here's the thing. The prison recordings show her trying to set up new schemes from inside. Already sent the evidence to the DA. I ended the call, shared the update with Marcus. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "Some people never learn." "No, but others do." I nodded toward the auditorium doors, where Emerson was leading in another group for the evening session. "That's why we're here." The evening group was different, all victims of financial fraud, gathering for mutual support and education. Janet and David were already there, setting up refreshments. "Before we start," Janet announced, "I have news. The recovery team found another account. We've secured the funds for redistribution to all victims." Applause filled the room. David hugged his wife, tears in his eyes. Their children would have their college funds back. Lisa slipped in beside me. "Ready to tell them about the new initiative?" I stepped to the front of the room. We're launching a nationwide network. Financial advisors, legal experts, fraud investigators, all working together to identify and stop these crimes before they destroy more lives. Like a fraud prevention task force? Someone asked. Better. I pulled up the presentation. We're creating a system that flags suspicious patterns across multiple institutions. The same patterns that Alejandro and Kayla used to hurt people will now help us protect others. The doors opened and Kayla's parents walked in. The room fell silent. Please, her mother said softly. We want to help. We need to help. I crossed the room, took her hands in mine. You already are. Your testimony helped strengthen the case against similar crimes in 2 other states. The meeting continued. Stories shared, strategies discussed, healing happening in real time. I watched Marcus comforting a newcomer, Lisa coordinating with our legal team, Janet and David sharing their recovery journey. My phone buzzed. A text from the prison chaplain. Alejandro asked to see you. Your decision. No, I typed back. Some chapters need to stay closed. After the meeting, we gathered at Emerson's house, the core team that had grown from victims to advocates. Over wine and takeout, we planned our next moves. The foundation's going national, Lisa announced, pulling up projections. 5 new offices opening next month. Make it 6, Marcus added. Just got approval for the Seattle branch. My phone lit up with a news alert. Financial Fraud Prevention Act passes Senate. The legislation we'd helped draft, inspired by our case, was becoming law. To justice, Janet raised her glass. To prevention, David added. To survival, Marcus said. I looked around at these faces, no longer victims, but warriors. Each carrying scars, each choosing to fight back. My phone buzzed again. Another case, another chance to help. To turning pain into purpose, I said, raising my glass, and to making sure what happened to us never happens to anyone else. Emerson brought out dessert, and the conversation shifted to tomorrow's presentations, next week's cases, next month's initiatives. No one mentioned Alejandro or Kayla anymore. They were just cautionary tales now, lessons learned the hard way. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Somewhere in those lights, someone was planning their next fraud, and somewhere else, someone was falling for it. But now there was a network waiting to catch them both, the predator and the prey. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from a stranger. Saw your presentation today. You saved my life. I was about to trust the wrong person. Thank you. I showed the message to the others, watching their faces light up. This was why we did it. This was how we won. Not just by surviving our story, but by helping others write better ones. Sometimes the best endings aren't about closure. They're about opening new doors for others. The invitation sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Alexis and Nolan. I read those words 20 times, each repetition feeling like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. My sister and my ex-husband. The universe really does have a sick sense of humor. I'm Peyton, and 6 months ago, my biggest concern was whether to repaint my living room sage or olive green. Now, I'm standing here, holding an invitation that's shattered my entire world. You need to come to dinner tonight, my mother had said on the phone this morning, her voice carrying that familiar tone of forced cheerfulness. Both girls together, like old times. Old times. Before Nolan. Before the divorce. Before my sister became the other woman. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of wedding talk and forced pleasantries. As I drove home later, that note burned a hole in my pocket. A.M. The initials sparked something in my memory, a name I'd seen on some paperwork during the divorce proceedings. I pulled into my driveway and sat there, engine idling. The old Peyton would have cried herself to sleep tonight. The old Peyton would have accepted this betrayal as her lot in life. But I'm not the old Peyton anymore. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Theo, it's me. Remember when you said you knew a good private investigator? I need that number, now. You're telling me you found this in your mom's bathroom? Theo pushed his coffee aside and leaned closer to examine the note I'd found. We were sitting in our usual corner of the local cafe, away from curious ears. It has to mean something, right? I spread out several other papers on the small table. Old bank statements, tax documents, anything I'd kept from my marriage to Nolan. AM keeps showing up in these transactions, but I can't figure out who they are. Theo ran his fingers through his dark curls, a habit he'd had since college. And you're sure you want to go down this rabbit hole? Sometimes letting go is, he's marrying my sister, Theo. I cut him off, my voice sharper than intended. This isn't about letting go anymore. This is about protecting her from whatever he's planning. Okay. He held up his hands in surrender. I'll text you Manuel's number. He's the best PI I know, but he's intense. My phone buzzed with the contact. I stepped outside to make the call, pacing the sidewalk as it rang. Manuel Kelly, a gruff voice answered. Hi, I'm Peyton. Theo gave me your number. I need help investigating someone. Meet me at Harrison's Diner in an hour. Bring everything you have. He hung up before I could respond. I turned to find Theo watching me through the cafe window, concern etched on his face. Back inside, I gathered my papers. He wants to meet now. I'm coming with you, Theo said, already standing. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Because the last time you had that look in your eyes, you ended up dyeing your hair pink and buying a motorcycle. That was 10 years ago, and I'm still traumatized. Harrison's Diner was nearly empty when we arrived. Manuel was easy to spot, a compact man with sharp eyes and a laptop that had seen better days. He gestured us over, without looking up from his screen. Show me what you've got, he said as we slid into the booth. I spread everything out, explaining about the note and the mysterious AM. Manuel's fingers flew across his keyboard as I talked. These transactions, he pointed to several entries on my old bank statements. They're structured to stay just under reporting limits. Classic money laundering technique. My stomach lurched. Money laundering? Your ex-husband's been busy. Manuel turned his laptop around. Look familiar? On the screen was a photo of Nolan shaking hands with a man outside an office building. The timestamp showed it was from last week. That's Andrew Morrison, Manuel said. He's been investigated twice for securities fraud, but nothing stuck. Want to guess what his initials are? AM, Theo whispered. My phone chimed. A text from Alexis. Dress shopping tomorrow? Please come. I need my big sister. I showed it to Theo, who squeezed my hand under the table. There's more, Manuel said, typing again. Your ex-husband's name is connected to a shell corporation called Vertex Enterprises. Established 3 months before your divorce, primary shareholder is listed as AM Holdings. How much would it cost to dig deeper? I asked. Manuel named a figure that made me wince, but I nodded. Do it. Peyton, Theo started, but I shook my head. I've got money saved. This is worth it. As we left the diner, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Peyton? A woman's voice, unfamiliar and nervous. I worked with Nolan at his old firm. There's something you should know about the offshore account. What offshore account? The one in the Caymans, under his grandmother's maiden name. I shouldn't be calling, but when I heard he was getting married again, just check the transfers from March 15th. That's all I can say. The line went dead. Theo was watching me. What was that about? I found myself driving to my childhood home that evening, muscle memory guiding me through familiar streets while my mind raced. The moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. The dining room table was set with Mom's best china, the set she only uses for special occasions. Peyton! Alexis rushed forward, practically bouncing. Her left hand was conspicuously hidden behind her back. I'm so glad you came. What's going on? I asked, though deep down I already knew. I don't know, I said slowly, but I think we just found our first real lead. My phone chimed again. Another text from Alexis. Found the perfect place for dress shopping. "Mom's coming too. Please say yes." I stared at the message, my throat tight. Tomorrow, I'd have to smile and ooh and ah over wedding dresses while knowing my sister's fiancé might be involved in serious financial crimes. "What are you going to do?" Theo asked softly. I typed back, "Wouldn't miss it. See you tomorrow." "I'm going to play along," I told Theo, my voice steady. "And while they're planning their perfect wedding, we're going to find out exactly what Nolan's been hiding." "We?" "Yes, we. Unless you've got better plans for the next few months?" Theo sighed dramatically. "Well, I was planning to finally learn macrame, but I suppose exposing your ex-husband's potential criminal empire takes priority." As we walked to our cars, Manuel's text arrived. "Found something interesting in Vertex's tax records. Meet tomorrow afternoon?" The game was on. "You're awfully quiet today," Mom said, arranging cookies on a plate while I sat at her kitchen counter. The same counter where I'd done my homework, shared secrets, and cried over my first breakup. Now it felt like neutral territory in a war I hadn't asked for. "Just tired." The dress shopping was intense. I picked up a cookie but didn't eat it. Watching Alexis try on wedding dresses had been like experiencing an out-of-body experience, surreal and slightly nauseating. "She looked beautiful in that lace one, didn't she?" Mom's voice softened. "You know, Nolan came by yesterday. He wanted to talk about father-daughter dance songs with your dad." The cookie crumbled in my grip. "Did Dad agree to see him?" "No," Mom sighed, wiping invisible crumbs from the counter. "He's still processing." "At least someone in this family is." "Peyton? Has Nolan mentioned anything about his new business ventures?" I tried to keep my voice casual. "Alexis said something about a new investment firm?" Mom's hands stilled. Something flickered across her face. Doubt? Worry? "He's been very successful lately. Bought Alexis that beautiful ring cash. Said something about a big deal with some company. Vertex, I think." My heart skipped. "Vertex?" "Yes, that's it, though." She lowered her voice, glancing around as if the walls might have ears. "I overheard him on the phone last week. He sounded angry, talking about moving money around. When I asked, he said it was just work stress, but..." My phone buzzed. Manuel requesting an urgent meeting. "Mom, I have to go. Work thing." I stood up, kissing her cheek. "Thanks for the cookies." "Peyton?" She caught my arm. "Be careful, sweetheart. Whatever you're doing, just be careful." I froze. "What makes you think I'm doing anything?" "Because you're my daughter, and you've got that same look you had when you were 7 and caught your sister stealing from your piggy bank. You didn't confront her. You set up a sting operation with your stuffed animals as witnesses." Despite everything, I laughed. "I forgot about that." "Just remember, the truth always comes out. Sometimes it's just a matter of waiting for the right moment." 20 minutes later, I walked into Manuel's office, a small space above a laundromat that smelled faintly of fabric softener. Theo was already there, looking at something on Manuel's computer. "Show her," Theo said without looking up. Manuel turned his monitor. "Meet Andrew Morrison's wife, Amanda Morrison." The photo showed an elegant woman at a charity gala. Standing next to her was Nolan, his hand on her lower back, far too intimate for a business relationship. "When was this taken?" 2 months before your divorce." The pieces started falling into place. AM wasn't just Andrew Morrison, it was Amanda too. "There's more," Manuel said, pulling up financial records. "Vertex Enterprises has been moving large sums through various accounts. The pattern suggests they're collecting investments for a non-existent fund." "A Ponzi scheme," Theo explained, seeing my confusion. "And my sister's about to marry into it." I sank into a chair. "How much money are we talking about?" Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Sit down, honey. We're just waiting for one more person." The doorbell rang, and my stomach dropped. I heard his voice before I saw him. That smooth, confident tone that once made my knees weak. Now it just made me nauseous. Millions. Manuel's expression was grim. "And based on these transactions, they're getting ready for something big. The wedding might be a cover, a way to appear stable and trustworthy to potential investors. My phone lit up with a text from Alexis. Nolan's planning a surprise engagement party next week. Don't tell Mom. Perfect timing, Manuel said, reading the message over my shoulder. Large gatherings of wealthy potential investors. We need concrete proof before then, I said. Something undeniable. Already working on it. Manuel pulled up another window. Remember that offshore account tip? Found it. The transactions on March 15th were interesting. Large transfers to an account belonging to one Amanda Morrison. The wife? Theo leaned forward. Why would Nolan be sending her money? Blackmail, maybe? I suggested. Or paying for silence? My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Found something odd in the attic. Old papers of Nolan's from when you were married. Should I keep them? Tell her yes, Manuel said quickly. Those could be important. As I typed my response, another message came through. This one from an unknown number. Engagement party, back room of Morrison's office, 8 p.m., bring proof. Amanda, I breathed. It has to be. It's a trap, Theo warned. Or it's our chance. I looked at Manuel. Can you get me everything you have by next week? He nodded slowly. It'll cost extra for the rush. Do it. I stood up, suddenly energized. Theo, I need you to be my +1 at an engagement party. Wouldn't miss it. He grinned. Should I wear my I'm with the whistleblower t-shirt? For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. The truth was coming together, piece by piece. Now I just had to survive an engagement party long enough to expose it. Are you sure about this? Theo adjusted his tie as we sat in my car outside the upscale restaurant where the engagement party was being held. The manila envelope on my lap felt heavier than it should. No, I admitted, checking my lipstick in the rearview mirror. But we're doing it anyway. The valet took my keys, and we walked into LeBlanc, where Nolan had proposed to me 4 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Peyton! Alexis rushed over, champagne in hand. You came, and you brought Theo! She hugged us both, the diamond ring on her finger catching the light. Nolan's just finishing up a business call. Come meet everyone! She dragged us through the crowd of well-dressed guests. I recognized several faces from Nolan's old firm, plus a few new ones who must be Vertex investors. Andrew Morrison stood near the bar, his wife Amanda beside him in a red dress that probably cost more than my car. 8 o'clock, Amanda mouthed when our eyes met, gesturing subtly toward a hallway. I need some air, I told Theo, patting the envelope hidden in my clutch. Cover for me? Be careful, he whispered, then loudly said, Don't forget your jacket in the car. I slipped down the hallway, following the signs to Morrison's private office. The door was unlocked. Amanda stood by the window, drinking straight from a bottle of expensive scotch. Close the door, she said without turning around. I did. Why help me? Because your sister isn't the only one being played. She turned, mascara slightly smudged. Show me what you have. I pulled out Manuel's documents. Bank transfers, shell companies, proof of the Ponzi scheme. But you already knew about that, didn't you? I knew something was wrong when Andrew started moving our personal assets offshore. She picked up the papers with manicured hands. Then I found out about Nolan and the others. Others? You think you were his first wife? Or that Alexis is his first affair? She laughed bitterly. It's their pattern. Find wealthy women, marry them, gain access to their family's money and connections, then divorce, hide the assets, and move on to the next target. My blood ran cold. Alexis doesn't have any money. Sorry, I'm late, Nolan said, stepping into the dining room. He looked exactly the same. Tall, well-dressed, with that perfectly maintained stubble that had once driven me wild. His eyes met mine for a brief moment before darting away. Now that everyone's here, Alexis practically squealed, finally bringing her left hand forward. The diamond caught the light, making me flinch. We're engaged! No, but your parents do. That trust fund they set up for your father's retirement? The one that matures next month? Amanda took another drink. Nolan's been forging documents to gain access. The wedding is just a formality. The door opened. Nolan stood there, his charming smile firmly in place. I thought I might find you here. Nolan, Amanda started. Save it. He closed the door behind him. Peyton, crashing your sister's engagement party? That's low, even for you. Not as low as stealing from my family. I grabbed the documents from Amanda. It's over, Nolan. I have proof of everything. Do you? He stepped closer. Because all I see is my bitter ex-wife conspiring with my business partner's alcoholic spouse to ruin her own sister's happiness. Who do you think people will believe? I found the note, I said, in Mom's bathroom, about the transfers with AM. Something flickered in his eyes. One cryptic note proves nothing, but the offshore accounts do, and the forged documents, and the other wives. You're bluffing. Try me. I pulled out my phone. One call to the SEC, and it all comes crashing down. He moved faster than I expected, grabbing my wrist. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Let her go. Theo stood in the doorway, phone raised. I've been recording everything. One wrong move, and this goes live to every guest out there. Nolan released me, straightening his tie. This isn't over. Actually, it is. Amanda stepped forward. Because I've been wearing a wire for the FBI for the past month. They have everything they need. The color drained from Nolan's face. In the distance, we could hear commotion from the main room. That would be the federal agents, Amanda said, suddenly sober. They're probably talking to Andrew right now. Nolan bolted for the door, but Theo blocked his path. Going somewhere? 2 FBI agents appeared behind Theo. Mr. Nolan, we need you to come with us. As they led him away, I turned to Amanda. Why didn't you tell me about the FBI? Couldn't risk it. Needed your investigation to play out naturally. She smiled sadly. Besides, I figured you deserved your own shot at justice. We walked back to the main room together. Alexis stood in the center, tears streaming down her face as agents interviewed guests. When she saw me, her expression crumpled. Did you know? She whispered. About all of this? I handed her the envelope. I was trying to protect you. She stared at the documents, then at me, then back at the chaos around us. I need a drink. I know a place, Theo said gently, and I think both of you could use one. As we left the restaurant, I glanced back at the scene we'd created. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about exposing the truth, no matter how much it hurts. He's out on bail! Theo's voice crackled through my phone speaker 3 days after the engagement party. Manuel just called. Nolan's lawyers worked fast. I gripped my steering wheel tighter, watching Alexis's apartment building through my windshield. Does she know? Not yet. Where are you? Outside her place. She's been dodging my calls. Peyton, maybe give her some space. A tap on my window made me jump. Alexis stood there, arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept in days. I hung up on Theo and got out of the car. Stalking me now? She asked. We need to talk. About how you ruined my life? Or about how you humiliated me in front of everyone I know? About how Nolan's out on bail? That got her attention. She glanced around the parking lot, suddenly nervous. Come inside. Her apartment was a mess. Empty wine bottles, wedding magazines torn to shreds, and a half-packed suitcase in the corner. The engagement ring sat on the coffee table like a discarded piece of costume jewelry. When did you know? She asked, collapsing onto her couch. About the fraud? I suspected something was wrong when I found that note, but I didn't know how deep it went until... No, she cut me off. When did you know about us? About me and Nolan? I sat across from her. Christmas, when you both lied about being out of town. She laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. You want to know the worst part? He told me you knew, said you were fine with it, that you'd moved on months ago. I believed him because I wanted to. Why him, Alexis? Of all people? The room spun. Mom was beaming. Nolan had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. Alexis kept talking, but her words became white noise. That's wonderful, I managed to choke out, gripping my water glass so hard I thought it might shatter. We wanted you to be the first to know, Alexis said, reaching for Nolan's hand across the table. You're my sister, Pei. Your blessing means everything to me. Because he was yours, she exploded, standing up. Your perfect husband, your perfect life. Do you know what it's like being the screw-up sister? The one who can't hold down a relationship or a job? The one mom's always worried about? Is that what you think? That my life was perfect? I stood too, anger finally breaking through. He cheated on me with 3 different women before you. He emptied our joint accounts. He made me feel crazy for suspecting anything. I didn't know, she whispered, about the other women, about any of it. Because you didn't want to know. The words came out harsher than intended. My phone buzzed. A text from Manuel. Nolan spotted heading your way. Get out now. We need to leave, I said, showing her the message. I'm not going anywhere with you. Alexis, please. A knock at the door made us both freeze. Alexis! Nolan's voice. Baby, I can explain everything. Alexis moved toward the door, but I grabbed her arm. Don't. Let go of me. He's using you to get to Mom and Dad's trust fund. The wedding was just a cover. The knocking got louder. I know you're in there, both of you. We need to talk. Alexis yanked her arm free. Maybe I want to hear his side. His side? The FBI has recordings, bank statements, testimonies from other women he's scammed. What more do you need? You don't understand, she said, tears streaming down her face. I love him. No, you love who you thought he was, just like I did. The door handle jiggled. Nolan must have kept a key. I grabbed Alexis's hand. Fire escape, now! For a moment, I thought she'd refuse. Then the door started to open, and she ran with me to the window. We climbed out just as Nolan entered the apartment. Alexis! He called after us. Don't listen to her. She's trying to turn you against me. We clattered down the metal stairs, my heels making too much noise. I could hear him following. My car's around the corner, I panted. Wait. Alexis stopped suddenly. The ring. I left it inside. Seriously? It's evidence, isn't it, of the fraud? I stared at my sister, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, I saw the sharp, clever girl I grew up with. Back entrance, she said. He doesn't know about it. Through the laundry room. We doubled back, slipping through the building's service entrance. Alexis used her key to access the stairs, and we crept back up to her floor. He'll be checking the street, she whispered as we eased her apartment door open. The ring still sat on the coffee table. Alexis grabbed it, along with a stack of papers from her desk. His investment proposals. The ones he wanted me to show Dad. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. We ducked into her bedroom just as Nolan re-entered the apartment. Think, I muttered, looking around. My eyes landed on her closet, and the access panel to the neighboring unit I knew was empty. As Nolan's footsteps approached the bedroom, I pulled Alexis toward the closet. For the first time since this whole mess began, we moved in perfect sync, like when we were kids playing hide and seek. Maybe that's what we needed, to remember who we were before Nolan came between us. You girls did what? Mom's voice echoed through her kitchen as Alexis and I sat at the familiar counter, still breathless from our escape. We'd crawled through the access panel, sprinted down 3 flights of stairs, and driven straight here. We had to, Alexis said, spreading out the investment documents we'd grabbed. Look at these, Mom. The signature at the bottom. It's Dad's. But he never signed these. Mom adjusted her reading glasses, hands trembling slightly as she examined the papers. These are dated last week. Your father was in the hospital for his knee surgery then. Exactly. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos Manuel had sent. Nolan's been forging signatures, setting up fake investment accounts. The wedding was just a way to get closer to the family money. I should have seen it, Alexis whispered. All those meetings he wanted with Dad about investment opportunities. The way he kept asking about the trust fund. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. "Back door," Mom said immediately, her voice steady. "Go, I'll handle this." "Mom?" I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Excuse me, bathroom." I barely made it to the upstairs bathroom before the tears came. Leaning against the sink, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Pale, shocked, betrayed. My hand brushed against something as I reached for a tissue. A small box had fallen from the medicine cabinet, spilling its contents across the counter. "Now, girls." We slipped out through the kitchen just as Mom opened the front door. Nolan's voice drifted through the house. "Andrea, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for Alexis. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." We crouched behind Mom's garden shed, listening. "She's not here, Nolan." Mom's voice was ice cold. "And if she was, I wouldn't tell you. Andrea, please, you know me. I love your daughter." "Which one?" Silence. "That's what I thought." Mom's voice grew stronger. "I've called my lawyer. He's reviewing everything. The forged documents, the fake accounts, all of it. Leave my family alone, or the FBI won't be your only problem." The shed door creaked open behind us. We spun around to find Theo. "Jesus!" I hissed. "What are you doing here?" "Manuel called, said Nolan was making the rounds. I figured you'd come here." He peeked around the corner. "Nice speech from your mom." "We need to get somewhere safe," Alexis said. "He's not going to stop." "My place," Theo offered. "He doesn't know where I live." We heard the front door slam, followed by a car engine starting. "Girls," Mom called softly. "Coast is clear." Back in the kitchen, Mom was already on the phone. "Yes, Detective Roberts. He was just here. Yes, I understand the restraining order won't be processed until Monday." Alexis grabbed my arm suddenly. "The wedding venue." "What?" "I never canceled it. The deposit, the guest list, everything's still set for next Saturday." Her eyes were wide. "He's been calling all morning about keeping the date." "Why would he care about the venue now?" Theo asked. The answer hit me like a truck. The investors. He invited all of Vertex's biggest investors to the wedding. It's his last chance to collect money before everything falls apart. Mom hung up the phone. "The detective says they're building their case, but it could take weeks." "We don't have weeks," Alexis said. "We have 7 days." Theo pulled out his laptop. "Manuel sent over everything he has on the wedding guests. Look, half of them are high-net-worth individuals connected to Vertex." "He's going to take their money and run," I realized. The wedding was never going to happen. It was just a cover for one final investment meeting. "Then we use it against him," Alexis said firmly. "Keep the venue. Let him think it's still happening." "Alexis, no," Mom started. "Yes." She stood straighter, looking more like herself than she had in months. "He used me to get to this family. Let me help take him down." My phone buzzed. "Amanda. FBI moving too slow. Nolan planning something big at wedding. Need your help." I showed them the message. "It's dangerous," Theo warned. "So is letting him do this to another family," Alexis countered. She turned to me. "I know I have no right to ask for your help after everything." "Stop." I grabbed her hand. "You're my sister. We're doing this together." Mom sighed heavily. "Your father is going to kill me for this, but—" She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling in a favor from Uncle Jack at the security firm." Theo was already typing. "I'll contact Manuel, get everything set up. One condition," I said to Alexis. "No more secrets between us. Ever." She nodded, tears in her eyes. Never again. We spent the next hour planning, turning the wedding venue into a trap. As we worked, I realized something. Revenge hadn't brought me peace, but working with my sister to expose the truth? That felt like justice. The wedding was still on, but this time, we were writing the ending. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom sparkled with wedding decorations, each crystal and flower hiding a carefully placed camera or microphone. I adjusted my earpiece, disguised as a pearl earring, and smoothed down my bridesmaid's dress. "Testing, testing!" Theo's voice crackled in my ear. "Everyone online?" Copy, Manuel responded from his position at the bar, posing as a server. Ready? Came Amanda's voice. She sat with the other guests, wearing a wire beneath her designer dress. Security team in position, Uncle Jack confirmed. FBI standing by, Detective Roberts added. I watched Alexis pace in the bridal suite, still in her wedding dress. You don't have to go through with this, I told her. Yes, I do. She checked her makeup one last time. Did you see how many people are out there? All those potential investors, their life savings at risk. We have to stop him. Among the scattered items was a folded piece of paper. I recognized Nolan's handwriting immediately. Transfer complete. AM confirmed receipt. Everything's set for Phase 2. Just keep playing your part. The note was dated 3 months before our divorce. A knock at the door made me jump. Peyton? It was Mom. Are you okay, sweetie? I quickly pocketed the note. Fine, I called back, splashing cold water on my face. Just needed a minute. Heads up, Theo cut in. Nolan just arrived. He's gathering investors in the hotel's conference room. That's not part of the plan, I said. The evidence handoff was supposed to happen during the ceremony. Change of plans. Amanda's voice was tense. He's spooked, wants to collect the money before the wedding starts. Alexis grabbed my hand. We need to move now. No, I squeezed her hand back. Let me handle this. You've done enough. Peyton, trust me, please. She nodded slowly. I slipped out of the bridal suite and made my way to the conference room, my heels silent on the plush carpet. Through the partially open door, I could hear Nolan's smooth sales pitch. Guaranteed returns of 20% annually, but this exclusive opportunity closes today. I pushed the door open. 30 pairs of eyes turned to me. Sorry I'm late, I said brightly. Did I miss the part where you explain how you're using my sister's wedding as a front for investment fraud? Nolan's smile never wavered. Peyton, always the dramatic one. Everyone, my ex-wife seems to be having trouble letting go. Actually, I pulled out my phone. I'm having trouble understanding these bank statements. You know, the ones showing how you emptied joint accounts? Or these documents with my father's forged signature? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She's obviously disturbed, Nolan said smoothly. Security? Oh, you mean Uncle Jack's team? I smiled. They're with us, along with the FBI agents posing as wedding guests. The door opened again. Amanda walked in, followed by Detective Roberts and 2 other agents. It's over, Nolan, Amanda said. They have everything. The offshore accounts, the forged documents, testimonies from your previous victims. Oh, previous victims? A well-dressed woman stood up. What previous victims? Show them. I nodded to Theo, who had slipped in behind me. He projected documents onto the conference room wall. Bank records, court files, photos. Evidence of Nolan's past marriages, divorces, and frauds. This is ridiculous. Nolan moved toward the door, but Uncle Jack's security team blocked his path. The money, an elderly man demanded. The investments we made today, where is it? Already traced, Detective Roberts said. Being transferred to accounts in the Caymans as we speak. Or it would be, if we hadn't frozen everything an hour ago. Nolan lunged for the other door, but Manuel was there, tackling him smoothly to the ground. Nice move, I commented. Former linebacker, Manuel grunted, keeping Nolan pinned. The ballroom doors burst open. Alexis stood there in her wedding dress, looking like an avenging angel. You forgot something, she said, walking toward Nolan. She pulled out a small recorder. Your confession from last night. Nolan's face went white. What confession? She pressed play. His voice filled the room. Of course I don't love her. She's just a means to an end, like her sister was. Once I have their father's money. The recording continued, detailing every aspect of his scheme. I watched the last of his composure crumble as Detective Roberts read him his rights. The ring, Alexis said coldly, pulling it off her finger. I believe this belongs to the FBI now. Evidence of funds obtained through fraud. As agents led Nolan away, the investors crowded around Detective Roberts, demanding answers about their money. Amanda began explaining the recovery process. Well, Theo appeared beside me. That was more exciting than your average wedding. Speaking of which, I looked at Alexis. What do you want to do about all this? I gestured at the decorated ballroom. She looked around at the flowers, the ribbons, the waiting chairs. Then she smiled. A real, genuine smile I hadn't seen in months. Let's have a party, she said. Not a wedding. A celebration of justice and family. I'll alert the DJ, Theo grinned. As guests began filtering in from the conference room, Mom and Dad appeared, hugging us both. My girls, Mom whispered. My brave, brilliant girls. The truth had finally set us all free. I still can't believe you turned your failed wedding into a justice-served party, Theo said, helping me hang the last of the fairy lights in Mom's backyard. The summer evening was perfect for our family's first proper gathering since Nolan's arrest. When I returned to the dining room, Alexis was showing Mom her Pinterest wedding boards on her phone. Nolan watched me carefully as I sat down. So, I said, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass, how long has this been going on? We reconnected at Christmas, Alexis said quickly. Too quickly. It just happened. Oh, better than letting all that food and champagne go to waste. Alexis called from the patio, where she was arranging platters. She'd traded her wedding dress for jeans and looked more like herself than she had in months. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Roberts. Nolan took the plea deal. 15 years. No parole for 10. Thought you'd want to know. I showed the message to Alexis. Good, she said firmly. The restitution hearings start next week, right? Amanda's testifying first, I confirmed. She's helping track down his other victims. Mom emerged from the house carrying her famous lasagna. Less talk about him, more help with these dishes. The backyard slowly filled with people who'd supported us through everything. Manuel chatting with Uncle Jack about security techniques, Amanda showing Dad photos of her new private investigation firm, friends and family who'd chosen sides and stuck by us. Package for Peyton? A delivery woman appeared at the gate. I signed for the small box, opening it to find a single key and a note. For the sister who never gave up. Love, A. Inside was the key to Amanda's office. She'd offered me a job as her partner. Take it, Alexis said, reading over my shoulder. You're good at this, uncovering the truth, helping people. What about you? I asked. Have you decided about the job offer? She grinned. Started Monday. Turns out financial fraud investigation units love hiring people with first-hand experience of investment scams. My daughters, the crime-fighting duo. Mom sighed, but she was smiling. Just promise me no more undercover operations at family events. No promises, we said in unison, then laughed. Really laughed, like we used to before everything went wrong. Theo clinked his glass. If I could have everyone's attention, I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone gathered around as he continued. To the strongest family I know, to truth that comes to light, to sisters who have each other's backs, and to justice that's better than revenge. To justice, everyone echoed. And to new beginnings, Amanda added, raising her glass. The FBI task force wants our help on another case. Something about a series of wedding planner scams. Already on it, Manuel called out, waving his laptop. Got some interesting leads. See? Theo nudged me. The universe has a sense of humor after all. Dad cleared his throat. While we're making announcements, your mother and I have decided to start a foundation for victims of financial fraud. We're calling it Truth Funds. Really? Alexis's eyes widened. Really? Mom confirmed. And we'd like you both to help run it. If you're interested. I looked at Alexis, seeing in her eyes the same mix of emotions I felt. Gratitude for where we'd ended up, relief at having our family whole again, excitement for what came next. One condition, I said. We do it together. No more secrets, no more competition. Deal! Alexis hugged me tight. Partners? Partners! The party continued into the night, fairy lights twinkling like stars. I found myself by the old tree swing, watching everyone mingle and laugh. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Theo joined me, offering a glass of champagne. "Just thinking about that note I found in Mom's bathroom. How something so small led to all of this." "Sometimes the smallest truths unlock the biggest lies," he said. "Speaking of which," he pulled out an envelope. "Manuel found these today. Thought you should see them." Inside were photos of Nolan with another woman, dated before he'd even met me. "There's always another secret with him, isn't there?" I sighed. But the photos didn't hurt anymore. They just felt like confirmation that we'd done the right thing. "Peyton! Alexis!" Amanda called. "Come see what we found." We joined the group gathered around Manuel's laptop, where a familiar pattern of transactions was emerging on the screen. "Look familiar?" he asked. "Very." Alexis leaned closer. "Same setup as Vertex?" "Similar," Amanda nodded. "Different players, same game." I felt that familiar spark of determination. "Well then, what are we waiting for?" "Hold up," Mom interrupted. "First dessert, then you can save the world." As we gathered around the table, passing plates of Mom's tiramisu, I realized something. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about getting everything you thought you wanted. Sometimes it's about discovering what you were meant to do all along. Christmas, when I was in Chicago for work. When Nolan was supposedly in Seattle on business. When Alexis told me she was too busy to meet up for our traditional sisters' holiday lunch. "Sometimes the heart wants what it wants," Nolan added softly, and I wanted to scream at the audacity. Instead, I took a sip of wine and said, "Well, I hope you're both very happy." And sometimes it's about finding out that your sister isn't just your sister. She's your best ally in the fight for truth. "Ready for our next adventure?" Alexis whispered. I squeezed her hand. "Always."
I never expected my father's death to feel like freedom. Call came on a Tuesday morning while I was preparing for a client meeting, my desk covered in spreadsheets and coffee-stained receipts. "My name is Callie, and until that moment I thought I had my life figured out. Married to a successful real estate agent, working as a senior accountant at a respectable firm, and living in a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Perfect on paper, just like my father always wanted. Callie, honey." My Aunt Fiona's voice cracked through the phone. "Your father. Elric had a heart attack last night. He's gone." The world didn't stop. My coffee didn't spill. Instead, I felt an odd sensation, like a weight lifting from my chest while simultaneously crushing it. "When?" I managed to ask, my fingers absently straightening the papers on my desk. "They found him this morning." The neighbor noticed the newspaper hadn't been picked up. Fiona paused. "He was in his study, Callie, working until the end, just like he always did." Course he was. The great Alaric Hartman wouldn't dare die anywhere else. I could picture him there, slumped over the antique mahogany desk where he'd spent countless nights reviewing my report cards, circling every A- in red ink. "I'll need to tell Malcolm," I said, more to myself than Fiona. My husband would want to know immediately. He always insisted on being the first to know everything. "Honey, there's something else." Fiona's tone shifted. "Your father's lawyer called. There's going to be a reading of the will." He was very specific about who should attend. I almost laughed. Even in death, my father was orchestrating everything, controlling who could and couldn't participate in his final act. "When do I need to be there?" "Friday. The funeral will be Thursday afternoon." She hesitated. "Callie, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied automatically, the way I always did. "I just need to make some arrangements." As I hung up, my office door opened. Malcolm stood there, perfectly pressed in his charcoal suit, his concerned expression already in place. Sometimes I wondered if he practiced these moments in front of a mirror. "Everything all right, sweetheart? I was passing by and heard you on the phone." Course he was. Malcolm had an uncanny ability to appear whenever I received important calls or emails. He called it being attentive. Called it. Well, I tried not to think too hard about what I called it. My father died, I said, watching his face carefully. Heart attack. His expression shifted from concern to calculation so quickly I almost missed it. Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. He crossed the room to embrace me, but his next words went straight to business. We should call Mom and Dad. They'll want to help with the arrangements. And we'll need to contact the lawyer about the estate. I pulled away slightly. Aunt Fiona's handling most of it. The funeral's Thursday. Thursday? His brow furrowed. I have that big showing at the lakefront property. The Hendersons are flying in specifically for it. You don't have to come, I said, surprising myself with how easily the words came out. I can handle it. Malcolm's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Don't be ridiculous. Of course I'm coming. Family comes first. I'll just reschedule. He said it like he was making a great sacrifice, and I supposed he was, in his way. The Hendersons were potential million-dollar clients. But something in his tone made me think of my father's study of all those red-inked A-minuses, of expectations and control wrapped in the guise of care. I should get back to work, I said, gesturing at my desk. I'll need to clear my schedule for the rest of the week. Malcolm nodded, kissed my forehead, and left, already pulling out his phone. Probably calling his mother, I thought. They'd be planning how to handle this situation before I even had a chance to process it. I turned back to my spreadsheets, but the numbers blurred before my eyes. In their place, I saw my father's study, that massive desk, and wondered what secrets it might hold now that he was gone. The funeral home smelled like artificial flowers and judgment. I stood in the receiving line, accepting condolences from people who hadn't spoken to my father in years, while Malcolm hovered nearby, his hand possessively pressed against my lower back. Your father was such a principled man, Mrs. Henderson from the garden club said, clasping my hands. He never wavered from what he believed was right. That was one way to put it. Another would be stubborn as a mountain. The last time I'd seen my father alive, we'd argued about my decision to switch firms. He'd called it disloyal. I called it a career move. We'd both said things we couldn't take back. Aunt Fiona appeared at my elbow, rescue written all over her face. Callie, honey, we need you in the study for a moment. I extracted myself from the endless line of mourners, ignoring Malcolm's questioning look. The study was mercifully empty and cool, my father's presence lingering in every leather-bound book and polished surface. You looked like you needed air, Fiona said, closing the door behind us. And maybe this? She pulled a flask from her purse. I laughed despite myself. Dad would have hated that. Your father hated a lot of things. Fiona took a sip before passing it to me. Doesn't mean he was right about them. The bourbon burned going down, but it helped. Did you know he kept every report card I ever got? Found them in his desk drawer yesterday. All those red marks. He kept other things too. Fiona moved to the bookshelf, pulling out a worn photo album. Look at this. The album fell open to a picture I'd never seen before. Me at maybe 6 or 7, fast asleep on my father's chest while he worked at his desk. His free hand rested protectively on my back, and his expression... I'd never seen him look so peaceful. He wasn't always good at showing it, Fiona said softly, but that man loved you more than anything in this world. The study door opened, and Malcolm stepped in with his mother Lorraine close behind. There you are, sweetheart. People are asking for you. We're having a private moment, Fiona said, her voice carrying an edge I'd never heard before. Lorraine's perfectly painted smile didn't waver. Of course, but there are proper ways to do these things. The guests need to see Callie being strong, maintaining appearances. Alaric would have wanted that. Don't pretend you knew what my brother would have wanted, Fiona snapped. I closed the photo album carefully, my fingers lingering on its worn cover. It's fine. I should go back out. Malcolm took my arm, but I pulled away, needing space. His jaw tightened, that familiar tell of controlled frustration. Back in the main room, the whispers followed me. I caught fragments, married so young. And just like her mother. The last one stung. My mother had died when I was 4, and my memories of her were more impression than fact. A laugh, the smell of vanilla, warm hands. Your father-in-law and I were just discussing the house, Mrs. Peterson, my father's neighbor, said as I passed. Such a shame to think of strangers living there. I stopped short. What? Oh, she fluttered her hands. I just assumed you'd be selling. With you living across town and all. We haven't made any decisions yet, Malcolm cut in smoothly, appearing at my side. These things take time. Of course. Mrs. Peterson nodded sympathetically. Though, if you're interested, my nephew is in real estate. I handle all our family's property matters, Malcolm said, his professional smile firmly in place. We'll be sure to keep everyone's interests in mind. I looked at him sharply. When had my father's house become our family's property? But before I could speak, Fiona called everyone to attention. It was time for the eulogy. Standing at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, some genuine in their grief, others just here for the show, I realized something. Everyone here thought they knew exactly who my father was, who I was, what should happen next. They all had their scripts ready. But as my hand touched the photo album in my jacket pocket, I wondered if any of us really knew the whole story. And for the first time since that phone call, I felt something beyond grief or relief, curiosity. The day after the funeral, I found myself alone in my father's study, surrounded by cardboard boxes and memories. Malcolm had insisted on coming, but a client emergency pulled him away, probably for the best. I needed space to think, to breathe, to process. I started with his desk drawers, methodically sorting through decades of my father's life. Tax returns, insurance policies, everything organized with military precision. Classic Alaric Hartman. The bottom drawer stuck. I yanked harder, and it finally gave way with a crack, sending me stumbling backward. A false bottom. Of course, my father would have a secret compartment. The man who triple-checked my homework would never be completely transparent. Inside, I found a leather portfolio and an envelope with my name written in his precise handwriting. My hand shook as I opened it. Dearest Callista, it began. He only used my full name when something was serious. If you're reading this, I've failed to tell you what matters most. Portfolio contains my updated will and a letter explaining everything. The house, the investments, my entire estate, it's yours with one condition. It must remain solely in your name. I read that line 3 times. Solely in my name? I've watched you disappear piece by piece since your marriage. You remind me of your mother in that way, trying so hard to be what others want that you forget who you are. I made the same mistake with her, trying to shape her into someone she wasn't. By the time I realized my error, it was too late. The study door creaked open. I quickly folded the letter as Malcolm walked in, his emergency apparently resolved. Any progress? He asked, surveying the boxes. Mother suggested we could have her interior decorator come by next week. Start fresh. We're not redecorating, I said, my father's words still ringing in my head. Not yet. Malcolm's smile tightened. Sweetheart, you can't keep it as a shrine. We need to think practically. I stood up, the portfolio clutched to my chest. This isn't our house, Malcolm. It's mine. Of course it is, he soothed, reaching for the portfolio. I just meant. I stepped back. Don't. Something flickered in his eyes, that same look he got when I declined his family's holiday invitations or suggested separate bank accounts. What's that you're holding? Dad's will. He left everything to me. Well, that's wonderful news. His smile returned, calculated and warm. We can finally start that investment project I've been talking about. The lakefront development. No. The word came out stronger than I expected. The inheritance is in my name only. That was his condition. Malcolm's facade cracked. That's ridiculous. We're married. What's yours is mine. Is it? I thought about the photo album, about my father's letter, about all the times Malcolm had made decisions for us without asking. Like how my career is yours to manage. My time? My life? You're being dramatic. He reached for me again. You're grieving. Let me handle things. Like you handled my promotion opportunity? The words burst out before I could stop them. I found the email you deleted. The one offering me the senior position at Crawford and Mills. Malcolm's face hardened. That firm's across the country. You weren't seriously considering it. That wasn't your choice to make. Everything I do is for us, for our future. His voice rose slightly. Your father never understood that. He filled your head with these independent notions, but marriage is about unity, about trust, about control. I finished, suddenly seeing everything clearly. Like how you tracked my phone, monitored my emails, managed my social calendar. Malcolm stepped closer, his voice dropping to that reasonable tone he used when he thought I was being difficult. Callie, you're upset. We should discuss this at home where Mother can help us sort things out. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw what my father must have seen. A man so afraid of losing control that he'd smother anything that threatened it. No, I said quietly. I think I'll stay here tonight. I have more sorting to do. His jaw clenched. This isn't over. As he stormed out, I unfolded my father's letter again. You're stronger than you know, it continued. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. For the first time in years, I believed it might be true. I spent 3 days at my father's house, sleeping in my old bedroom and avoiding Malcolm's calls. On the 4th morning, Aunt Fiona showed up with coffee and a determined look in her eyes. Your mother-in-law cornered me at the grocery store, she said, settling into my father's leather armchair. Apparently, you're having a nervous breakdown. I snorted, taking the coffee. Did she recommend her therapist again? Among other things, Fiona's is narrowed. She mentioned Malcolm's looking into power of attorney options. For your own protection, of course. Coffee turned bitter in my mouth. He can't do that. No, he can't. But the fact that he's trying. Fiona leaned forward. Callie, what's really going on? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Another email from Malcolm, this one marked urgent. I opened it, then felt the blood drain from my face. He's frozen our joint accounts, I said, my voice hollow. For my own protection. To prevent any grief-driven financial decisions. Fiona cursed under her breath. How much do you have in your personal account? That's just it, I don't have one. Malcolm said it would be easier to manage everything together. The words sounded so stupid now. He even has my paychecks auto-deposited into our joint account. Of course he does. Fiona pulled out her phone. Call your bank right now. Then your work. Change your direct deposit information. I'll contact my lawyer. As I made the calls, my hands shaking, I remembered all the little moments that had led here. The joint account suggestion right after our honeymoon. The shared passwords for convenience. The tracking app he'd installed on my phone for safety. My phone buzzed again, Lorraine this time. I declined the call. The lawyer can see us this afternoon, Fiona said. But first, we need to check something. She led me to my father's study and went straight to his desk. Your father mentioned something last Christmas about keeping documents in the safe. Said you might need them someday. What safe? Fiona moved the painting behind his desk, revealing a wall safe I'd never noticed. The combination is your mother's birthday. Inside, we found a manila envelope labeled Elizabeth's Trust. My mother's name. With trembling fingers, I opened it. Oh my God, I whispered. My mother had left a trust in my name. A separate account I'd never known about, managed by my father all these years. The balance made my head spin. Smart man, your father, Fiona said softly. He knew someday you'd need an escape route. My phone buzzed again. Malcolm had sent a text. Mother and I are coming over. We need to discuss your recent behavior. I showed Fiona the message. She squared her shoulders. Perfect timing. Let them come. I can't face them right now. Yes, you can. Fiona gripped my shoulders. You're not that scared newlywed anymore. You're Alaric Hartman's daughter and your mother's too. They were both fighters in their own ways. I thought about my father's letter, about my mother's hidden trust, about all the quiet ways they tried to protect me. I need to make one more call. Crawford and Mills answered on the second ring. This is Callie Hartman. About that senior position, is it still available? 20 minutes later, Malcolm's car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the study window as he and Lorraine emerged, their faces set with concerned determination. They had their scripts ready, their plans in place. But for the first time, I had something they didn't expect: options. I touched the trust documents in my pocket and thought about my father's words. You're stronger than you know. He'd been preparing me for this moment all along in his own rigid, protective way. Ready? Fiona asked as the doorbell rang. I straightened my spine, feeling something shift inside me like a key turning in a lock I hadn't known existed. Yes, I think I finally am. Malcolm and Lorraine swept into the study like they owned it, their concern a perfectly rehearsed duet. I stood behind my father's desk, Fiona a steady presence beside me as they took their positions. Darling, we've been so worried, Malcolm started, his voice honey-smooth. You're not answering calls, making rash decisions? Like protecting my inheritance? The words came out sharper than I intended. Lorraine stepped forward, all maternal concern. Sweetheart, we understand you're grieving. That's why Malcolm had to take precautions. These kinds of decisions shouldn't be made in emotional states. What decisions would those be? I asked, my hand resting on the trust documents. The job offer I accepted? Or the separate bank account I just opened? Malcolm's facade cracked slightly. You what? Crawford and Mills offered me the senior position again. I start next month. That's across the country, Lorraine gasped. Malcolm, did you know about this? His laugh was brittle. She's not serious. Callie, you're upset about your father, I understand. But this theatrical rebellion needs to stop. Rebellion? I pulled out my father's letter. Is that what you call independence? I call it ingratitude, he snapped, mask finally slipping. Everything I've done, everything we've built, and you're willing to throw it all away? For what? Some fantasy of freedom? Freedom isn't a fantasy, Malcolm. It's a right. I opened the letter. Want to know what my father really thought of our marriage? Your father was a controlling old man who saw right through you, I cut in. Who knew exactly what you were doing because he'd done it himself to my mother. The difference is he learned from his mistakes. Lorraine moved closer to Malcolm, her hand on his arm. We should call Dr. Stevens. She's clearly having some kind of breakdown. Already tried that angle, Fiona said coldly. The lawyer shut it down this afternoon, along with that power of attorney request. Malcolm's face darkened. You went to a lawyer? Actually, the lawyer came to me. Apparently, my father arranged it before he died. I met his gaze steadily. He arranged a lot of things, Malcolm, including my mother's trust fund. Color drained from his face. What trust fund? The one you'll never touch. I pulled out the papers. The one that's going to fund my fresh start without you. He lunged forward suddenly, reaching for the documents. I jerked back, but Fiona was faster, stepping between us. The look in Malcolm's eyes in that moment told me everything I needed to know about who he really was. That's my cue, Fiona said, pulling out her phone. Should I call the police now, or would you like to leave quietly? This isn't over, Malcolm snarled, but Lorraine grabbed his arm. Not here, darling. Not like this. She turned to me, eyes cold despite her smile. You'll regret this, Callie. The running away won't solve anything. I'm not running away, I said. I'm walking away. There's a difference. After they left, Fiona hugged me tight. You okay? I wasn't, not really. My hands were shaking and my heart felt like it might burst. But underneath the fear was something else, something that felt like my father's strength and my mother's spirit combined. I need to pack some things, I said, pulling away. I can't go back to that house. You'll stay with me until you leave for the new job. Fiona paused. You know they won't give up easily, right? Malcolm's type never does. I looked around my father's study, at the life he'd built, at the protection he'd tried to provide. Then I thought about my mother's trust fund, her own secret rebellion, her gift to me across time. Let them try, I said, picking up the photo album from the desk. I'm done being managed. My phone buzzed, Malcolm again. This time, instead of ignoring it, I blocked his number. Then his email. Then his parents. Each tap felt like breaking another link in a chain I hadn't even realized I was wearing. Dad would be proud, Fiona said softly. I touched the letter in my pocket. I think he finally is. A week after moving in with Fiona, I came home from the lawyer's office to find our front door ajar. Inside, drawers hung open, papers scattered across the floor, and my father's photo album lay torn apart, its pages strewn like fallen leaves. Fiona? My voice echoed through the empty house. No answer. My phone buzzed, an email from an anonymous account. Inside was a photo of my mother's trust fund documents, followed by a simple message. We should talk. Alone. Park. 7 p.m. I knew Malcolm's writing style. Even without a signature, I could feel his fingerprints all over this. Called the police, Fiona said from behind me, making me jump. She looked shaken but angry. They're on their way. Nothing seems missing except the trust fund papers, I finished. I know where they are. My phone buzzed again. Another email. Tick-tock. Coming. Fiona read over my shoulder. You're not going. I have to. I picked up a torn photo of my father from the floor. These were copies anyway. The originals are safe with the lawyer. That's not the point. Fiona grabbed my arm. He broke in, Callie. This isn't about money anymore, it's about control. It was always about control. I pulled away. But now I'm the one choosing where and when. Park was deserted except for Malcolm. Sitting at a chess table like this was just another evening game. He'd suggested we play chess on our first date, claiming it would help him understand how I thought. I should have recognized the red flag. You're alone, he said as I approached. Good. Where are the papers? He smiled, pulling them from his jacket. Sit. Let's talk like reasonable people. Breaking and entering seems pretty unreasonable to me. You left me no choice. His voice hardened. You're destroying everything we built. For what? Some misguided notion of independence. No, I said, remaining standing. I'm building something new. Without you. You really think you can manage on your own? He laughed. You couldn't even handle your own banking without me. Because you never let me try. I met his gaze. But my father did something you never did. He trusted me to make my own choices. Your father. Malcolm stood suddenly. The man who controlled every aspect of your life? Who made you feel worthless unless you met his impossible standards? He learned from his mistakes. Unlike you, Malcolm's smile turned cruel. Did he? Or did he just manipulate you one last time from beyond the grave? Trading his control for your blind loyalty? The words hit harder than I expected, touching a doubt I hadn't wanted to acknowledge. Had my father really changed, or was I just switching one form of control for another? The papers, I said, holding out my hand. I'll make you a deal. He pulled out another document. Sign this. transfers half the trust fund to our joint account. In return, I'll forget about pressing charges. Charges? For embezzlement. His smile widened. I have proof you've been moving company funds. My mother's already spoken to the board. My blood ran cold. He was lying, he had to be. But Malcolm had always handled the company's books, had access to all our accounts. You wouldn't. Try me. He slid the transfer document forward. Sign and this all goes away. We can start fresh. I'll even support your career goals within reason, of course. For a moment, I felt the old fear creeping back. The urge to give in, to keep the peace, to be the perfect wife he'd molded me to be. Then he heard silence. Malcolm's face changed. What did you do? Nothing, I said, feeling stronger with each word. Fiona called them. When you broke into her house. The house where there are security cameras. He grabbed for the papers, but I was already backing away. You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled out my phone, showing him the live feed from Fiona's security system. I learned from the best, Malcolm. Just not from you. As the police cars pulled up, I saw something I'd never seen before in Malcolm's eyes, fear. And for the first time since my father died, I felt truly free. The police interview room felt colder than it should in August. Malcolm sat across from me, his lawyer beside him, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. 3 hours of questioning had cracked his perfect facade. Mrs. Everett, the detective said, we need your statement about the financial records. Before I could speak, Malcolm's lawyer intervened. My client is willing to drop all allegations of embezzlement in exchange for... No deals, I cut in, pulling out a USB drive. These are the real company records. The ones Malcolm didn't know I kept. Malcolm's head snapped up. What? I learned from my father to always keep backup records. I slid the drive across the table. Every transaction for the past 3 years, including the ones you've been hiding from your parents. His face went pale. Callie, don't. The lakefront development project? I continued, watching him crumble. It failed 6 months ago. But you kept taking investor money, didn't you? Including from your mother. The detective picked up the drive. Malcolm lunged forward, but the officer behind him placed a firm hand on his shoulder. You were supposed to trust me, he hissed. That's what wives do. No, that's what marks do. I stood up. We're done here. In the hallway, Lorraine waited with Clyde, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. Is it true? She demanded. The development. Ask your son. I moved to pass her, but she grabbed my arm. We gave you everything, she said. Made you part of our family. And this is how you repay us. I thought of all the family dinners, the subtle criticisms, the way they'd shaped and molded me into their perfect daughter-in-law. You never gave me anything. You just took and took until there was nothing left. That's not true, Malcolm called from the doorway, handcuffed but still trying to control the narrative. I loved you. I protected you. No, I said, turning back. You loved owning me. There's a difference. His face changed then, vulnerability cracking through the anger. I didn't want to lose you. Everything I did. I was trying to keep us together. For a moment, I saw him as he'd been when we first met. Charming, seemingly sincere, a little broken. The man I'd thought I could help, could love enough to fix. I know, I said softly. That's what makes it worse. Please, he whispered. I'll change. We can start over. Lorraine stepped forward. Listen to him, Callie. Family forgives. You're right. I pulled out my father's letter, the one I'd carried since finding it. Family does forgive. But they also learn from their mistakes. I handed the letter to Malcolm. My father wrote this before he died. About how he almost destroyed my mother trying to protect her. About how love shouldn't feel like a cage. Malcolm's hand shook as he read. He was wrong about me. About us. No, I said. He was wrong about himself, and he learned from it. That's the difference between you. As the officers led Malcolm away, Lorraine made one last attempt. You'll regret this. You're nothing without this family. I thought of my father's study, of my mother's hidden trust, of Fiona's unwavering support. I'm not nothing. I never was. You just couldn't see me behind all the walls you built. Beside the station, Fiona waited in her car. You okay? I looked back at the building where my old life was crumbling. Malcolm would face charges. His parents would face financial ruin. The perfect family image they'd cultivated would shatter. I thought revenge would feel better, I admitted. This isn't revenge, Fiona said. It's justice. There's a difference. As we drove away, I realized she was right. Revenge would have been destroying them simply because I could. Justice was finally telling the truth about them, about myself, about everything. Ready to pack for Crawford and Mills? Fiona asked. I touched my father's letter in my pocket and smiled. Ready to start living. 6 months after Malcolm's arrest, I stood in my father's study for the last time. The house had sold quickly, too many memories for me to stay, too much potential for the young family moving in. As I packed the last box, something fell from between my father's old books, another letter. Paper was older than the first one, yellowed and soft at the edges. Inside, I recognized my mother's handwriting. My dearest Alaric, it began. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not because I don't love you, but because love shouldn't feel like drowning. Take care of our Callie. Teach her to swim. I sat in my father's chair, letting the words sink in. All those years of strict rules and high expectations, had he been trying to teach me to swim in his own broken way? My phone buzzed, a news alert about Malcolm's sentencing. 5 years with possibility of parole. The Everetts had lost everything, their reputation, their savings, their carefully constructed facade of perfection. Last I heard, Lorraine had moved in with relatives out of state. Ready! Fiona appeared in the doorway, carrying another box. The movers are here for the furniture. Found something, I said, holding up the letter. Mom wrote it. Before she left. Fiona's eyes widened. Left? But I thought. So did I. I carefully folded the letter. Turns out there are different kinds of death. Different kinds of grief. Different kinds of love, too, Fiona added softly. We worked in silence, dismantling the last pieces of my father's life. Each book, each paper, each memory carefully packed away. When we reached his desk, I found one final surprise. A small key taped beneath the drawer with a note. For when you're ready to swim. Key fit a safety deposit box at his bank. Inside was a journal, my mother's. Not dead after all, but living quietly in Oregon. All these years, my father had known where she was, had kept her secret, had let her go. He wanted to tell you, read his final note tucked inside the journal. But he was afraid you'd choose her over him. Pride makes cowards of us all. Don't make my mistakes, Callie. Don't let fear of losing love become a cage. 2 weeks later, I stood outside a small bookstore in Portland, watching a woman with my eyes and smile help a customer. My mother. Alive. Free. Different kinds of death indeed. I didn't go in. Not yet. Instead, I drove to my new apartment near Crawford and Mills, where a corner office and a team of my own waited. Where no one knew me as Malcolm's wife or Alaric's daughter. Where I could finally just be Callie. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and my father's photo album. The last page held a surprise, a photo I'd never seen before. My mother and father, young and laughing, with baby me between them. On the back, in my father's handwriting, remember, love sets free. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Malcolm somehow reaching out from behind bars. I didn't read it. Instead, I blocked the number and opened my mother's journal. Dear Elizabeth, I wrote on the first blank page. I understand now. About drowning. about swimming, about finding air when you need it most. Maybe someday we'll talk about it. But for now, I just wanted you to know I learned to swim. Closed the journal and looked out at the city lights, thinking about different kinds of love, different kinds of freedom, different kinds of strength. My father had taught me more than just rules and expectations. He taught me how to break free of them. Tomorrow I'd start swimming on my own. But tonight I let myself float, suspended between past and future, between grief and hope, between what was and what could be. And for the first time in my life, the water felt just right.
I never expected to find the letter that would tear my family apart while cleaning out my mother-in-law's attic. But there it was, tucked inside an old photo album, written in Evelyn's elegant handwriting. My name is Cassidy, and until yesterday, I thought I understood the dynamics of my husband's family. Now I'm not so sure about anything. Jake, honey, can you bring up some more boxes? I called down the stairs, quickly folding the letter and slipping it into my back pocket. My hands were trembling. Be right up. His footsteps echoed through the old house as he climbed the stairs. Mom sure kept everything, didn't she? I forced a smile as he appeared in the doorway, his dark hair dusty from our afternoon of sorting through decades of memories. We'd been at it for hours, trying to organize Evelyn's belongings before her upcoming surgery. She'd insisted we help her get things in order, though none of us wanted to think about why. Found anything interesting? Jake asked, setting down another box. I touched my pocket where the letter burned like a hot coal. Just some old photos, I said, hating how my voice wavered. He picked up a framed picture of himself and his sister Melanie as kids. Remember when Mel used to wear her hair in those crazy pigtails? He chuckled. She'd kill me if she knew I showed you these. The mention of Melanie made my stomach clench. The letter in my pocket suddenly felt heavier. Speaking of Mel, Jake continued. She called earlier. Said she's coming by tomorrow to help sort through Mom's jewelry. Wants first pick of the family heirlooms or something. Of course she did. The words from Evelyn's letter flashed through my mind. Melanie will try to take everything she can get her hands on. She always has. That's why I'm leaving the house and the business to you and Jake. Someone needs to protect our family's legacy. Cass, you okay? You look pale. I grabbed another box, needing something to do with my hands. Just tired. It's been a long day. Maybe we should call it quits for today. Get some dinner? Jake wrapped his arms around me from behind, and I leaned into him, fighting back tears. How could I tell him what his mother had written? How his sister had been manipulating their family for years? My phone buzzed, a text from Melanie. Hope you're not throwing anything valuable away. Some of us actually care about family history. I deleted the message without responding. Through the attic window, I could see Evelyn's garden below, the roses she'd tended for decades now wilting in the summer heat. She taught me how to prune them last spring, sharing stories about Jake's childhood while we worked. Had she known then what she would reveal in this letter? Jake, I started, turning in his arms. What if? The sound of a car door slamming cut me off. Through the window, I saw Melanie striding up the walkway, her designer purse swinging from her arm. Is that Mel? Jake moved to the window. I thought she wasn't coming until tomorrow. I touched the letter in my pocket again. Tomorrow would have given me time to figure out how to handle this, how to protect Jake from the truth about his sister without destroying his family in the process. Jake, Melanie's voice carried up from downstairs. You'll never believe what Mom told me about the inheritance. Jake headed for the stairs, but I grabbed his arm. Wait, I said, my heart pounding. There's something you need to know first. He looked at me with concern, and in that moment, I knew our lives were about to change forever. The only question was, would our marriage survive what I was about to tell him? Before I could show Jake the letter, Melanie burst into the attic, her heels clicking against the wooden floor like a countdown. Her perfectly styled hair and designer outfit looked out of place among the dusty boxes and cobwebs. There you are. She beamed at Jake, completely ignoring my presence. Mom's asking for you at the hospital. She wants to discuss some important family matters. Jake frowned. What family matters? We just saw her this morning. Oh, Mom. Melanie waved her hand dismissively. She's been so worried about everything since the diagnosis, especially about the house and the business. My fingers traced the edge of Evelyn's letter in my pocket. The timing couldn't have been worse. Actually, I stepped forward. We were just about to. Did you see what they did to Mom's rose garden? Melanie interrupted, pulling Jake toward the window. The landscapers completely butchered it. I told her not to trust your recommendation, Cassidy. The accusation stung, but I caught the real message beneath her words. This was just the beginning. Those roses are dormant, Mel. It's called winter pruning, I said, keeping my voice steady. Your mother specifically asked me to oversee it. Jake rubbed his temples, a gesture I recognized as his stress response. Can we not do this right now? If Mom needs me. She does, Melanie insisted, linking her arm through his. And while we're there, we should discuss the inheritance situation. I've been thinking about the kids' college funds, and with my current situation, I couldn't stay silent any longer. Jake, before you go anywhere, we need to talk. In private. Melanie's perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. Private? We're family, Cassidy. There shouldn't be secrets between family. The irony of her statement made me want to laugh. Or scream. Fine, I said, pulling out Evelyn's letter. Let's talk about secrets. The color drained from Melanie's face as she recognized her mother's handwriting. Where did you get that? It was in one of these boxes, along with some very interesting bank statements. Jake looked between us, confusion clouding his features. What's going on? Nothing, Melanie said quickly. Just your wife snooping through family documents that don't concern her. They concern me when they involve my husband being manipulated out of his inheritance. The words hung in the air like dust motes caught in the afternoon sunlight. Jake took the letter from my hands, his eyes scanning the pages with growing disbelief. Mel, he whispered, is this true? Did you really take out loans in Mom's name? Melanie's composure cracked. She offered to help. I needed the money for the kids, and she said no. I cut in. The letter makes that very clear, along with her wishes for the house and business. You don't understand, Melanie's voice cracked. You with your successful little shop and your perfect marriage. Some of us have real struggles. Real struggles don't justify fraud, Mel. Jake hadn't moved, still staring at the letter. When he finally looked up, the hurt in his eyes was unbearable. How long? He asked his sister. How long have you been lying to us? Before she could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn's nurse. Mrs. Monroe asking for family. Condition deteriorating. Please come quickly. The three of us stared at each other, the weight of unspoken words and betrayals pressing down like the years of accumulated memories surrounding us. We should go, Jake said finally, his voice hollow. But this isn't over, Mel. As we headed downstairs, Melanie grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my skin. You have no idea what you've just started, she hissed. I met her gaze steadily. No, Melanie. I just finished what you started years ago. But watching Jake's defeated posture as he walked to the car, I wondered if uncovering the truth had cost me more than I was prepared to lose. The hospital corridor felt endless as we rushed toward Evelyn's room. Jake hadn't spoken a word since we left the house, and Melanie had mysteriously taken a different car, probably to get there first and spin her version of events. I nearly collided with my best friend Lila outside Evelyn's door. She worked part-time at the hospital cafe and often checked in on my mother-in-law during her shifts. Thank God you're here, she whispered, pulling me aside. Melanie's been in there for 20 minutes, and Evelyn's been asking for Jake. Jake pushed past us into the room. Through the doorway, I could see Melanie perched on the edge of Evelyn's bed, clutching a stack of papers. Mom, Jake's voice cracked. What's going on? Evelyn looked smaller than she had yesterday, drowning in hospital whites. Her eyes found mine, and I saw a flash of recognition and warning. Jake, sweetheart, Melanie's voice dripped honey. Mom wants to discuss the funeral arrangements. And the will. I stepped into the room. The will? Now? Evelyn needs rest, not. Actually, Evelyn's voice was weak but clear. I need to speak with Cassidy. Alone. The silence that followed was deafening. Melanie's perfectly composed face cracked for just a second, revealing something ugly underneath. Mother, you're not thinking clearly. The medication. I said alone, Melanie. Evelyn's tone left no room for argument. Jake touched my shoulder as he left, his expression unreadable. Melanie stormed out, but not before shooting me a look that could have frozen hell. Once the door closed, Evelyn reached under her pillow and pulled out another envelope. My hands shook as I took it. There's something else you need to know, she whispered. Something I couldn't put in the first letter. I opened the envelope and started reading. My knees gave out, and I sank into the chair beside her bed. This can't be right, I breathed. The business? It wasn't Jake's father's?
No.
Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. And Melanie knows. She's always known. It's why she's so desperate to get her hands on everything. She thinks she's entitled to more because… The door burst open. Melanie stood there, triumph written across her face. I knew it. I knew you'd try to turn them against me. Behind her, Jake appeared, his expression devastated. You knew about Dad? All this time? Jake, wait. I started, but Melanie cut me off. Oh, let her tell you, brother dear. Let her tell you how our precious mother built her empire with another man's money while Dad worked himself to death thinking he wasn't good enough. That's not what happened. Evelyn tried to sit up, setting off a cascade of beeping monitors. A nurse rushed in. Everyone out.
Now.
In the hallway, Jake paced like a caged animal. Someone better start explaining. The business was started with money from my first love. Evelyn's voice carried from the doorway. She stood there, gripping her four-pole, ignoring the nurse's protests. Before I met your father, he died in Vietnam, leaving everything to me. Your father knew, Jake. He knew, and he understood. But I didn't. Melanie's mascara ran in black streaks down her face. I had to find out from old letters in the attic. Do you know what it's like, growing up thinking you're not good enough, that there was someone else Dad could never measure up to? I watched Jake's face as the pieces fell into place. His sister's bitterness, their mother's careful planning, the weight of secrets kept for decades. The inheritance, he said slowly. You're splitting it based on what's fair. I finished, understanding finally dawning. The business goes to you, Jake, because you worked alongside your dad for years. The house goes to both of you, but the trust fund goes to my first love's grandchildren. Evelyn said softly. Melanie's kids. The monitors started beeping again, more urgently this time. As the nurses rushed Evelyn back to bed, I caught a glimpse of something in Melanie's expression, not triumph or anger, but pure, unadulterated fear. And I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about a family's identity unraveling, thread by careful thread. The question was, would there be anything left to save when the truth finally finished tearing us apart? Evelyn passed away that night. The news came through a 3 a.m. phone call that changed everything. Jake answered, listened in silence, then walked out of our bedroom without a word. I found him in the garage, methodically taking apart an old motorcycle engine, his way of processing grief. The funeral's on Saturday, he said without looking up, his hands covered in grease. Mel's handling the arrangements.
Of course she was.
I crouched beside him, watching his hands shake as he stripped another bolt. We should be involved in the planning.
Why?
So, we can fight over that too. The wrench slipped, catching his knuckle. Blood mixed with oil. Here, let me. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Don't. His voice cracked. Just don't. My phone buzzed, a text from Lila. You need to see this. Now. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in her cafe, staring at a social media post Melanie had just shared. The funeral announcement included a special note. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations to help cover outstanding medical expenses and support Evelyn's grandchildren's education fund. She's already collecting money, Lila said, sliding me a coffee. Using her mother-in-law's death to finance her lies. I scrolled through the comments. Dozens of family friends offering condolences and promising donations. Melanie's perfectly crafted responses, playing the grieving daughter while subtly hinting at financial hardship. There's more. Lila hesitated. Check the funeral home's website. The program listed Melanie as sole executor of the estate. No mention of Jake. No mention of Evelyn's actual wishes. My hands shook as I dialed our family lawyer. Straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times before giving up. What are you going to do? Lila asked. Before I could answer, the cafe door chimed. Jake walked in, looking like he'd aged years overnight. He was holding a manila envelope. Found this in Mom's safety deposit box, he said, dropping it on the table. The banker called. Said Mom left instructions to open it immediately after. I opened the envelope. Inside was a USB drive and another letter, this one addressed to both of us. Jake's phone rang. Melanie's name flashed on the screen. He declined the call. She's been calling all morning, he said. Wants me to sign some papers before the funeral. Says it's what Mom wanted. And what do you want? He stared at the envelope. I want my sister back. The one I grew up with, before money and lies poisoned everything. My phone buzzed again, an email from the funeral home requesting confirmation of arrangements. The attached invoice was astronomical. She's using Mom's funeral to drain the estate, Jake said flatly. Classic Melanie.
We can stop this, I said.
The letters, the evidence of fraud. And destroy what's left of our family? He laughed bitterly. Mom's body isn't even cold yet. Your mother wanted to protect you, to protect all of us. I pulled out the USB drive. Maybe this will tell us how. Jake's phone rang again. This time it was the bank. His face darkened as he listened. Someone just tried to access Mom's accounts, he said after hanging up, using her old passwords. Melanie. Had to be. But here's the thing, they succeeded with one account. An old one I never knew existed. I connected the USB drive to my phone. A single video file appeared, dated 3 months ago. Evelyn's face filled the screen, looking directly into the camera. If you're watching this, she began, then I'm gone, and Melanie has already made her move. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about our family. Jake gripped my hand as we watched, his knuckles white. By the time the video ended, we both knew attending the funeral wouldn't be enough. We had to stop Melanie from destroying not just the inheritance, but the truth about who we really were. The question was, were we ready for the cost of exposing it all? The funeral home looked more like a fortress than a place of mourning. Melanie had stationed her friends at every entrance, each one eyeing us suspiciously as we approached. I clutched my purse containing Evelyn's letters and USB drive, while Jake gripped the legal injunction we'd rushed to file that morning. Ready? I whispered. Jake's jaw tightened.
No.
But Mom deserves better than this circus. We'd barely reached the door when Melanie's oldest friend, Sarah, blocked our path. Private family service, she said, not meeting our eyes. I am family. Jake's voice carried across the parking lot. That's my mother in there. Heads turned. Melanie appeared in the doorway, wearing designer black and a carefully crafted expression of grief. Jake, darling. I was so worried you wouldn't come. Though perhaps it would have been better if you hadn't brought certain people. My fingers brushed the USB drive. One push of a button and Evelyn's video would expose everything. But looking at the gathered mourners, elderly aunts dabbing their eyes, cousins whispering in corners, I hesitated. Let's take this inside, I suggested quietly. Melanie's smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course. Family should stick together in times like these. The funeral home's back office was cramped, but it felt appropriate for the showdown about to unfold. Melanie perched on the edge of the desk, fingering a stack of documents. I assume you've seen the changes to Mom's will? She slid a paper toward Jake. She wanted to make sure the grandchildren were taken care of. You mean the changes you forged? I pulled out the original will from my purse. The bank confirmed Mom's signature on your version doesn't match. How dare you? But her hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Jake, are you going to let her accuse me of? Stop. Jake's voice was deadly quiet. Just stop, Mel. We know about the secret account, about Dad's real relationship with the business, about everything. The color drained from Melanie's face. You don't understand. My kids. I had to protect them. By stealing? By lying? I stepped forward. By using your mother's death too. A commotion outside interrupted us. Through the office window, I saw Lila arguing with the funeral director, waving what looked like financial documents. Security. Melanie called out, but I was faster. I grabbed the USB drive and plugged it into the office computer. Wait. Melanie's composure cracked. Please. You don't know what this will do to the family. Evelyn's face appeared on screen. My dearest children. Her voice filled the room. If you're watching this, then the worst has happened. Not just my death, but the destruction of the trust one spent a lifetime building. The office door burst open. The funeral director entered, followed by 2 police officers. Mrs. Monroe? One officer stepped forward. We have some questions about certain financial transactions. Melanie's mask finally shattered. He was going to take everything, she screamed, pointing at Jake. Just like Dad took Mom's love from my real father. I deserved more. My children deserved more. The room fell silent except for Evelyn's voice still playing from the computer. But remember, my darlings, that true inheritance isn't about money. It's about the choices we make. I moved to stop the video, but Jake caught my wrist. Let it play, he whispered. Let everyone hear the truth. Watching Melanie collapse into tears as the officers led her away, I felt no triumph. Only a bone-deep sadness for what greed and secrets had done to this family. Outside, mourners gathered in confused clusters. The funeral would have to be delayed now. More secrets would come to light. More pain would surface before healing could begin. What do we do now? I asked Jake as we stood in the autumn sunshine, surrounded by the wreckage of family ties. He took my hand, his father's ring glinting on his finger. We honor Mom's real wishes. All of them, even the hard ones. Even forgiving Melanie? Especially that. He squeezed my hand. But first, we bury our mother properly, without the lies. The weight of Evelyn's final letter pressed against my heart. There was still one secret left to reveal, one that would either heal this family or destroy it forever. The county jail's visiting room smelled of industrial cleaner and despair. Melanie sat across from us in her orange jumpsuit, her perfectly manicured nails now chipped and broken. 3 days in custody had stripped away her polished facade, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. My kids need me, she whispered, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. The school called yesterday. Tommy's acting out again. Jake shifted in his metal chair, but said nothing. We'd spent the last 2 nights arguing about this visit, about what to do next. The evidence against Melanie was damning: forged documents, embezzled funds, identity theft. She was facing serious time. I can fix this, Melanie continued. If you just drop the charges, we can work something out. For the family's sake. Family? The word tasted bitter in my mouth. You stole from your own mother while she was dying. I was protecting what was rightfully mine. Her voice echoed off the concrete walls. You have no idea what it was like watching Mom favor Jake all those years, knowing the truth about my real father. A guard glanced our way. Jake reached for my hand under the table, but I pulled away. The final letter from Evelyn burned in my pocket, the one I still hadn't shown either of them. The prosecutor offered a deal. I said, return the money, serve 6 months, get probation. And lose my children? Melanie's laugh was hollow. Child Services is already investigating. 1 conviction and they'll take my kids away. Jake finally spoke. We could take them. Temporarily. Until you. No. Melanie slammed her hands on the table. You don't get to play savior with my children. You've already taken everything else. The guard stepped closer. Everything okay here? I nodded, but my hands were shaking. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Justice shouldn't feel this much like revenge. Time's up, the guard announced. As we stood, Melanie grabbed my arm. You think you've won? That you're better than me? Her nails dug into my skin. Wait until you read Mom's last letter. The one about what really happened the night Dad died. I froze. What are you talking about? Ask your precious husband why he was the last person to see our father alive. Ask him about the argument they had over the business. About the brake lines on Dad's truck. That's enough. Jake's voice cracked like a whip. The guard pulled Melanie away, but her words had already done their damage. I watched Jake's face, saw the color drain from it, and knew there was truth in what she'd said. Outside, the autumn air felt too thin to breathe. Jake reached for me, but I stepped back. Cass, I can explain. Can you? Because right now I'm wondering if I ever knew you at all. My fingers touched Evelyn's final letter. Did you know what was in this? What? I pulled out the envelope, hands trembling. Your mother wrote it the day before she died. Said it would explain everything about that night. Jake's expression changed. Don't open it. Please. Why not? What are you afraid of? Because some truths destroy everything they touch. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. Yes, I was there that night. Yes, we argued. But I didn't. I wouldn't. My phone buzzed, a text from Lila. Police at your shop. Something about financial irregularities. Call me. The world tilted sideways. In our rush to expose Melanie, we'd forgotten about the business loans Jake's father had taken out, loans that were never properly transferred after his death. Loans that, technically, could be considered fraudulent. Jake. My voice sounded distant. What did you do? But looking at his face, I already knew. We'd been so focused on Melanie's crimes, we'd never stopped to question where the original money came from, or why Evelyn had been so desperate to protect her secrets. The letter felt heavy as lead now. One truth exposed had started this avalanche. What would this final revelation do to what was left of our family? Jake reached for the envelope. Some secrets should stay buried, Cass. Like your father's death? His hand dropped. In the distance, police sirens wailed. I found Margaret Chen waiting on my front porch at dawn. Evelyn's oldest friend and confidant sat in the morning mist like a ghost from the past, clutching a weathered leather briefcase. You open the letter, she said. Not a question.
No.
My voice was hoarse from a sleepless night. Jake hadn't come home, but Melanie knows what's in it. Margaret nodded slowly. As do I. Evelyn told me everything before she died. She patted the briefcase. And she left proof. Before I could respond, a car pulled into the driveway. Jake stepped out, looking haunted. Behind him, another car parked, Melanie, accompanied by a police officer. What's she doing out? I demanded. Posted bail, Melanie said, approaching the porch. She'd traded her jumpsuit for a simple black dress. Had help from an unexpected source. Margaret stood. From me. Because it's time everyone knew the truth. All of it. The morning air crackled with tension as Margaret opened her briefcase. Evelyn kept everything. The original loan documents. The insurance investigation. The mechanic's report about the brake lines. Jake's hands clenched into fists. You don't understand what happened that night. I understand perfectly, Margaret cut in. Because I was there too. At the garage, when your father confronted you about the embezzlement. My head spun. What embezzlement? Not Jake's, Melanie whispered.
Dad's.
He'd been stealing from Mom's inheritance for years. The money from her first love, my real father. Margaret pulled out a stack of papers. Robert Monroe was a desperate man. When Jake discovered the theft, he threatened to expose everything. They argued. Robert left angry, driving too fast on wet roads. The brake lines were already failing. Jake's voice cracked. Dad knew. He'd been putting off repairs. I tried to stop him from driving that night, but he wouldn't listen. Said he'd rather die than face the shame. And Mom protected you, Melanie said. Made it look like an accident. Covered up the financial mess. Just like she always protected you. She protected all of us. Jake shot back. Including you, Mel. Where do you think your trust fund came from? The money you've been stealing? Enough. Margaret's voice cut through the tension. Evelyn wanted this to end. That's why she wrote the final letter. to confess her part in everything. The police officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, if you have evidence of criminal activity." "I have evidence of a family destroying itself over secrets and lies," Margaret interrupted.
She turned to me.
"Cassidy, Evelyn chose you as executor for a reason. Not just because you married Jake, but because you're the only one who might understand why she did what she did." My fingers traced the envelope seal. "To protect her children." "No," Margaret said softly. "To force them to face the truth. Together." I opened the letter. As I read Evelyn's final words aloud, tears fell freely. She confessed everything: the cover-up, the redistributed money, the decades of carefully maintained lies. But more importantly, she wrote of love, of sacrifice, of the cost of protecting people from their own mistakes. The inheritance, I finished reading, isn't the money or the business. It's the truth, and the chance to choose a different path. Silence fell. The morning sun broke through the mist, casting long shadows across the porch. "The charges," the officer said quietly, "against both parties. If restitution is made." "We'll make it right," Jake said, looking at his sister. "All of it." Melanie wiped her eyes. "I don't know how." "Together," I said, surprising myself. "The way Evelyn wanted." Margaret smiled, closing her briefcase. "She said you'd understand, Cassidy. That's why she trusted you with her final secret." "What secret?" She nodded toward my midsection. "Check the last page of the letter." My hand flew to my stomach as I read the final lines. Somehow, Evelyn had known before I did. A new life, growing beneath my heart. A fresh start, untainted by old sins. "Well," Melanie said, attempting a watery smile, "I guess my kids are getting a cousin." It wasn't forgiveness.
Not yet.
But as the morning light strengthened, casting away the last shadows of night, it felt like the possibility of dawn. 6 months later, I stood in Evelyn's garden, watching Jake and Melanie's kids plant spring bulbs together. The roses were beginning to bud, tiny promises of new life breaking through winter-hardened stems. "They're getting along better," Lila said, handing me a cup of herbal tea. My growing belly made bending over the flower beds impossible now, but I could still supervise. "Most days," I agreed. "The family counseling helps." Melanie emerged from the house, carrying a tray of lemonade for the kids. Her ankle monitor caught the sunlight, part of her probation agreement. The court had been lenient, considering the circumstances and her cooperation in untangling the financial mess. "Tommy, careful with those tulip bulbs," she called out. "Your grandmother loved those." Jake looked up from where he was teaching Tommy proper planting depth. Their relationship was healing slowly, one shared moment at a time. The truth about their father's death had nearly broken them both, but somehow, facing it together had started the mending. "Found another one," Melanie's daughter Sarah announced, holding up a small envelope buried in the soil. Evelyn's final surprise, letters and small treasures hidden throughout her beloved garden, meant to be discovered over years. "What's this one say?" I asked as Sarah brought it over. "For my grandchildren," she read, "who will grow stronger than the roots of these roses." Melanie's hands trembled as she took the envelope. Inside was a key and an old photograph, her biological father in his military uniform, standing proud beside a young Evelyn. "The keys to his storage unit," Jake said quietly. "Mom told Margaret there were things there you should have. Things that might help you understand." Melanie nodded, unable to speak. She'd started therapy last month, finally ready to confront the anger she'd carried since childhood. The business was changing too. Jake had transformed their father's old trucking company into a logistics firm, with Melanie handling the books, under supervision, of course. Her accounting skills, once used for deception, were being channeled into rebuilding what their father had nearly destroyed. "Aunt Cass," Tommy called out, "when the baby comes, can we teach them about the roses too?" "Of course," I said, touching my belly where Evelyn's last prediction kicked and tumbled. "That's what family does." Later that evening, as Jake and I sat on the porch swing, I pulled out the final letter I'd been saving. The one Evelyn had marked for the future. Ready? Jake asked. I broke the seal and began to read. My dearest ones, if you're reading this, then the garden is blooming again. Remember that growth requires both sunshine and rain, joy and pain. The greatest inheritance I could leave you isn't in bank accounts or business ledgers. It's in the strength you've found in facing the truth together. The letter continued, but something caught my eye. A postscript, written in shakier handwriting. P.S. Check behind the loose brick in the garden wall. Some secrets are worth keeping just long enough for people to be ready for them. Jake and I exchanged glances. Another mystery, another truth waiting to be uncovered. But this time, we weren't afraid. Tomorrow, I said, folding the letter. Some truths can wait for morning. As if in agreement, the baby kicked. Above us, stars emerged in the darkening sky, and somewhere in the garden, a late rose bloomed, its petals opening to embrace both darkness and light. Melanie appeared in the doorway. Kids are asking for their bedtime story. They want to hear about Grandma Evelyn again. Coming, Jake said, helping me up. Which story should we tell? I looked at the family gathered in the warm light of the house, broken, healing, but together. Let's tell them about the garden, about how things that seem dead can come back to life, if you're patient enough to wait for spring. Melanie smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. And about how some inheritances aren't things at all. No, I agreed, following them inside. They're the choices we make, and the truths we're brave enough to face. Behind us, the garden settled into evening, keeping its remaining secrets safe until we were ready to discover them, one truth at a time.
The call came just as I was finalizing the biggest contract of my career. My phone buzzed with my mother's face lighting up the screen, and my stomach instantly knotted. Mom never called during business hours unless something was terribly wrong. Livia, you need to come home right now. It's your sister. There's been an accident. My name is Livia, and at 30 years old, I'd built my marketing agency from nothing into a 7-figure business. But in that moment, none of it mattered. I grabbed my keys and rushed out of my office, leaving the contract unsigned on my desk. What happened? Is Lexi okay? I asked, my voice shaking as I sprinted to my car. Just come quickly, Mom said before hanging up. The 40-minute drive home felt like an eternity. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as memories of Lexi flooded my mind. Despite our differences, she was still my baby sister. Just last week, she'd been gushing about her upcoming wedding to Caesar, showing off her massive engagement ring that probably cost more than his annual salary. I screeched into my parents' driveway and burst through the front door. Mom? Dad? Where's Lexi? The scene that greeted me stopped me cold. Lexi sat on the couch, perfectly fine, surrounded by wedding magazines. Mom hovered nearby with a guilty expression, while Dad avoided eye contact entirely. Oh good, you're here, Lexi chirped, flipping through a bridal catalog. I need your opinion on these centerpieces. My blood ran cold. What accident? Well, Mom started, wringing her hands. Lexi really needed you here for wedding planning, and we knew you wouldn't come if... Are you kidding me? I cut her off. I left an important meeting for this? Lexi rolled her eyes. Oh, please, it's just work. This is my wedding we're talking about. Just work? I laughed incredulously. That just work paid for your college tuition when Mom and Dad couldn't afford it. Girls, please. Dad finally spoke up from his armchair. Lexi's wedding is important to all of us. Can't you take one afternoon off, Livia? I pulled out my phone to check my emails, my heart sinking when I saw messages from my client about the missed meeting. You don't get it. I had $1 million contract signing today. See? Lexi gestured dramatically. You're always so obsessed with money. This is about family. Family doesn't lie to each other, I snapped. My phone buzzed again. A message from my office manager. Client left, said they'll be reconsidering the contract. I have to go damage control this, I said, turning to leave. Livia, Mom called after me, don't you want to be part of your sister's special day? I paused at the door. Next time you want me to be part of something, try asking honestly instead of manipulating me with fake emergencies. You're just jealous because I'm getting married first, Lexi shouted as I walked out. The drive back to my office was a blur of anger and frustration. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Mom and Lexi, but I ignored them all. Something felt off about today, beyond the obvious manipulation. Maybe it was the way Dad couldn't meet my eyes, or how Mom seemed more nervous than usual. When I finally reached my office, my assistant Valeria was waiting with a concerned look. "What happened with the contract?" I asked. "They're gone," she said quietly. "But Livia, there's something else. While you were gone, someone accessed our financial systems. The passwords were changed." I froze. "What? How is that possible? Only 3 people have that access. You, me, and—" The realization hit me like a truck. The fake emergency, the wedding planning distraction, it all made horrible sense. "Call Eugene," I told Valeria, my voice steel. "Tell him I need him here first thing tomorrow morning." As I sat at my desk, staring at the unsigned contract that could have secured my company's future, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from Lexi. "Thanks for coming home, sis. Can't wait to show you my wedding dress tomorrow." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Something told me I'd need proof of every transaction, every document, every detail of what I'd built. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't trust my own sister. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of her betrayal. Eugene arrived at my office the next morning, looking grave. He'd been our family's attorney since I was a kid, but today he wasn't here as a family friend. "Show me everything," he said, setting his briefcase down. I pulled up my company's financial records on my computer screen. Yesterday, someone changed all our system passwords. This morning, I discovered large transfers had been made last week, money I never authorized. Eugene leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "How much are we talking about?" $3 million, almost everything we had. His sharp intake of breath told me everything. "And you suspect Lexi?" "The timing's too perfect," I said, pulling out my phone to show him the texts. "She created a fake emergency to get me away from the office right when—" My phone started ringing. It was Bailey, my younger brother. "Liv," he said, his voice shaking. "Have you seen the news?" I put him on speaker and pulled up our local business news website. The headline made my blood run cold. "Rising marketing agency acquired by wedding planning empire." "What the hell?" I whispered. "There's more," Bailey continued. "Lexi's been telling everyone at her wedding planning meetings that she's now CEO of a major marketing company. She's using it to attract investors for some kind of wedding-related business venture." Eugene was already typing furiously on his laptop. "Livia, when was the last time you checked your business registration documents?" 2 weeks ago, everything was normal. I pulled up the government business portal, logged in, and felt the room spin. This can't be right. There it was in black and white. Ownership had been transferred to Lexi Horton Enterprises, LLC. "But how?" I demanded. "I never signed anything." Eugene's face darkened. "Someone did. We need to get the original documents." My office door burst open and Valeria rushed in. "Livia, you need to see this." She handed me her tablet, open to Lexi's social media. There was my sister, standing in my office, behind my desk, captioning, "Big news, so excited to announce my newest venture. Thanks to my amazing sister for this incredible wedding gift." "Wedding gift?" I spat. My phone buzzed again. "Mom." "Livia, why aren't you answering Lexi's calls? She's trying to discuss the company transition with you." "What company transition?" I demanded. "Mom, she stole my business." "Don't be dramatic," Mom sighed. "She said you agreed to help fund her wedding. It's what sisters do." "What sisters do? I built this company from nothing. While she was partying through college, I was working 18-hour days." "Well, maybe if you hadn't been so obsessed with work, you'd have someone special in your life too," Mom said coldly. "Lexi's wedding is important to this family." I hung up, my hands shaking with rage. Eugene cleared his throat. "Livia, we need to move fast. I'm filing an emergency injunction, but we need proof of fraud." "I have security cameras," Valeria offered, "including the day Lexi visited last month." We pulled up the footage. There I was, in a meeting with clients. And there was Lexi, slipping into my office while I was distracted. The camera caught her rifling through my desk drawers, but the angle didn't show what she took. Bank statements, I realized. She needed my signature to forge. Bailey's voice came through the phone, still on speaker. Liv, there's something else. Lexi's been collecting investments from wedding guests. She's promising them huge returns after the wedding, saying she'll use your company's profits. Eugene's head snapped up. That's securities fraud. How many investors? At least 50, Bailey said. Most of them put in their life savings. My stomach churned. This wasn't just about me anymore. Lexi had dragged innocent people into her scheme. Eugene, I said quietly, what are my options? He closed his laptop. Legally, we fight, but it'll be messy, public, and could take months, during which time she'll have control of your company. And the investors? If they lose their money, they could sue both you and Lexi, since she's using your company's name. I stood up, walking to the window of what might no longer be my office. Then we need something faster than legal action, something that forces her to undo this before the wedding. What are you thinking? Valeria asked. I turned back to face them, my mind made up. If Lexi wants to make this about her wedding, then that's exactly where we'll hit her. Bailey, I need everything you can get about these investors. Eugene, keep working on the legal angle. Valeria, yes? Clear my schedule. We're going wedding planning. I stormed into my parents' house that evening, clutching a stack of documents Eugene had prepared. The whole family was gathered for another wedding planning session, including Lexi's fiancé, Caesar. Oh, there you are, Lexi beamed, acting as if nothing was wrong. We were just discussing the investor dinner next week. You'll be there to help present, right? Investor dinner? I looked directly at Caesar. Did she tell you where the investment money is really going? Caesar frowned. It's for our wedding venue chain. Lexi said you're partnering with us. Is that what she told you? I slammed the documents on the coffee table. These are bank statements showing $3 million transferred out of my company last week. Money that's already gone to pay for your wedding. Livia! Mom stood up, hands on her hips. Stop trying to ruin your sister's happiness. Happiness? I laughed bitterly. Let's talk about the 50 people who invested their life savings in this scheme. Did you tell them, Lexi, that you're using their money for flower arrangements and a designer dress? Lexi's face paled slightly, but she recovered quickly. Don't be ridiculous. The company transfer was a gift. You signed the papers yourself. I never signed anything, I said, pulling out another document. But someone forged my signature. Want to explain that? Dad finally looked up from his newspaper. Forged? Lexi, what is she talking about? She's lying! Lexi jumped up, her voice shrill. Mom, tell her to stop! Actually, Bailey spoke up from the corner where he'd been quietly observing. I have proof. He pulled out his phone and played a recording. Lexi's voice, clear as day, promising an elderly couple a 300% return on their investment through her marketing company. Caesar stood up slowly. Babe, what's going on? You told me your sister was handling the business side. She is, Lexi insisted, but her voice wavered. Livia's just jealous because I'm finally more successful than her. Successful? I stepped closer. You stole my company. You're scamming innocent people. That's not success. That's fraud. It's not fraud, Lexi screamed. I deserve this. Do you know how hard it is being your sister? Perfect Livia, who built her own business, who always does everything right. This is my chance to have something of my own. By stealing what I built? Girls, please, Dad tried to intervene. We can work this out as a family. Can we? I turned to him. Because last I checked, family doesn't commit identity theft. Family doesn't forge signatures. And family definitely doesn't steal $3 million. Mom started crying. Livia, why can't you just help your sister? It's her wedding. A wedding she's funding with stolen money and fake investments. These people could lose everything. Caesar grabbed his jacket. I need some air. This is too much. Caesar, wait! Lexi called after him as he headed for the door. It's not what you think. Then what is it? He asked, pausing. Because it sounds like you've been lying to everyone, including me. The room fell silent as he left. Lexi turned on me, tears streaming down her face. You've ruined everything. This was supposed to be perfect. Perfect? I pulled out my phone. Should I call the investors? Let them know their money is gone? Or maybe the police? You wouldn't dare, Mom gasped. Try me. I met Lexi's eyes. You have 24 hours to transfer everything back and come clean to the investors, or I go public with everything. You can't prove anything, Lexi said, but her voice trembled. Bailey stood up. Actually, we can. I've been recording every investment meeting for the past week. Every promise, every lie. You little snake. Lexi lunged at him, but Dad held her back. Enough, he shouted. For the first time in my life, I saw real anger in his eyes. Lexi, is this true? Did you steal from your sister? Lexi's facade finally cracked. I just needed the money. The wedding was getting so expensive, and everyone expected it to be perfect. 24 hours, I repeated, turning to leave. Oh, and Lexi, I'd start calling wedding vendors to cancel, because one way or another, this fairy tale is over. As I walked out, I heard Mom start sobbing harder and Dad demanding answers from Lexi. Bailey followed me to my car. That was intense, he said quietly. It's not over, I replied, starting the engine. She's not going to give up that easily. What are you going to do? I checked my phone, seeing missed calls from 3 different investors. I'm going to make sure she faces consequences for once in her life, even if it means destroying this family in the process. Valeria paced my living room, phone in hand, reading messages from our business contacts. 3 more investors called. They're getting nervous because Lexi isn't returning their calls. Of course she isn't, I said, checking my watch. 18 hours left until my deadline. My phone buzzed. Caesar calling. I put him on speaker. Livia, he sounded exhausted. I've been going through Lexi's papers. This is worse than we thought. She promised some investors returns of up to 500%. That's impossible, Valeria gasped. Even in our best year, we never cleared more than 40% profit. She's been showing them fake projections, Caesar continued. Using your company's letterhead. There's more. She's already spent most of the investment money on wedding deposits. Non-refundable ones. I rubbed my temples. How much are we talking about? 2.8 million. The venue alone was nearly $1 million. Eugene, who'd been quietly reviewing documents at my dining table, looked up. That's securities fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. She's looking at serious prison time. My phone buzzed again, Mom calling. I ignored it. What about the other investors? I asked Caesar. The ones Bailey recorded? Another 4 million, promised for after the wedding. Lexi told them the money would fund a chain of luxury wedding venues. She showed them fake property listings and everything. A knock at my door made us all jump. Bailey burst in, looking panicked. Lexi's doing damage control, he said, pulling up social media on his tablet. Look. There was my sister, tears streaming down her face, recording a live video. I just wanted to address the horrible rumors my sister is spreading. Yes, she gifted me her company as a wedding present, but now she's trying to take it back. She's always been jealous of my happiness. Turn it off, I snapped. Eugene, options? We go nuclear, he said, pulling out a fresh stack of papers. I've prepared criminal complaints, civil suits, and... Another knock interrupted him. This time, when I opened the door, I found Dad standing there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Can we talk? He asked quietly. I let him in. He took in the scene. Eugene with his legal papers, Valeria with her phone, Bailey with his tablet, and Caesar on speaker. I had no idea, he said, sinking into a chair. All these years, we enabled her, made excuses, but this... He pulled out an envelope. I found these in her old room, copies of your signature she'd been practicing forging. Eugene took the envelope. This is exactly what we needed, proof of premeditation. Dad, I said softly, you know what has to happen now. He nodded slowly. Your mother won't accept it. She's still defending Lexi, saying we should just give her the money to make this go away. It's not just about the money anymore. Caesar spoke up from the phone. She lied to everyone, including me. Mr. Gonzalez, Eugene said, We're filing charges tomorrow morning unless Lexi returns everything and comes clean to the investors. As her father, you might want to encourage her to cooperate. Dad stood up, straightening his shoulders. I'll talk to her, but Livia? He turned to me. Whatever happens, you're right to do this. I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. After he left, Valeria checked her phone again. Lexi's video is going viral. People are taking sides. Let them, I said, turning to Eugene. What's our next move? We need to protect the remaining investors, he replied. Stop them from putting in more money. Bailey, can you get me those recordings? Bailey nodded, but then froze, staring at his phone. Guys, you need to see this. He held up his screen. A new email from Lexi to all the investors. Emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Exciting new developments in our venture. Bring your checkbooks. Final chance to invest before we close funding. She's going to take more money, Valeria whispered. No, I grabbed my keys. She's not. Bailey, forward that email to Eugene. Valeria, call every investor on our list. Warn them. Caesar, can you meet us at the venue she booked for this meeting? I'll be there, he confirmed. But Livia, what are you going to do? I looked at the stack of legal documents Eugene had prepared, then at the forged signatures Dad had brought. Years of enabling Lexi had led to this moment. Time to end it. I'm going to give my sister exactly what she wants, I said. A public scene she'll never forget. As we headed out, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from Lexi. You can't stop this. I always get what I want. See you at the meeting, sis. I showed the message to Eugene. He smiled grimly. Perfect. Now we have proof she's continuing the fraud despite warnings. Shall we proceed with the restraining order? No, I replied. Let her have her meeting. It's time everyone saw the real Lexi. The hotel ballroom was packed with potential investors when I arrived. Lexi stood at the podium, radiant in a designer dress, while Mom sat in the front row beaming with pride. Neither of them had noticed me slip in with Eugene and Valeria. As you know, Lexi was saying, our luxury wedding venue chain is an incredible investment opportunity. My sister's marketing company, which she generously gifted to me, will ensure maximum exposure. That's interesting, I called out, stepping forward. Tell them about the gift, Lexi. Show them the paperwork. The room fell silent. Lexi's smile flickered but didn't fade. Livia, I'm so glad you came, she said sweetly. Everyone, this is my sister, who's been so supportive of my dreams. Actually, I pulled out my phone. Let's talk about those dreams, and the $3 million you stole. Security! Mom stood up, pointing at me. Remove her! I wouldn't. Eugene stepped forward, holding up his badge. Federal investigation in progress. Everyone stay seated. The crowd started murmuring. An elderly man in the third row stood up. What investigation? Ms. Lexi promised us guaranteed returns. There are no guaranteed returns, I said loudly, because there is no wedding venue chain. The money you've already invested, it's gone, spent on her personal wedding. That's a lie, Lexi screamed, mask finally cracking. Mom, make her stop. I have proof, I continued, nodding to Valeria, who started playing the security footage on the projector. There was Lexi sneaking into my office, practicing my signature, making transfers. The crowd erupted. We want our money back, someone shouted. Please, everyone calm down, Lexi pleaded. This is just a misunderstanding. My sister is jealous because... Because what? Caesar stepped in from the back. Because you committed fraud? Because you lied to everyone, including me? Caesar, Lexi's eyes widened. Baby, I can explain. Explain the fake properties? He held up his phone. The ones you showed investors? I called every single realtor. None of them are for sale. More shouts from the crowd. Mom rushed to the podium, trying to shield Lexi. My daughter would never lie, she insisted. Livia is trying to ruin her wedding. Mrs. Gonzalez, Eugene stepped forward. Your daughter forged signatures, committed wire fraud, and stole millions. The FBI is very interested in this case. The FBI? Lexi's face went white. Unless, I said clearly, you return every dollar by noon tomorrow and confess everything to these people right now. Lexi looked around frantically, seeing angry faces everywhere. I just wanted a perfect wedding. Everyone expected so much. My retirement savings! an elderly woman cried out. I trusted you. I can fix this, Lexi insisted. Just give me more time. If everyone here invests today. That's enough, a new voice cut through the chaos. Dad walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Lexi, it's over. Daddy? Lexi's voice went small. You called the police? You need help, he said firmly. This has to stop. The officers approached the podium. One of them spoke. Ms. Lexi Horton, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of fraud and identity theft. No, Mom tried to block them. You can't do this. It's almost her wedding day. Mom, I said quietly, let her face the consequences, for once. As the officers led Lexi away, she turned to me, mascara streaming down her face. I hate you. You've ruined everything. No, Lexi, you did that yourself. The investors swarmed Eugene, demanding information about recovering their money. Caesar slipped out quietly, engagement ring left on a table. Mom collapsed in tears while Dad tried to comfort her. Bailey appeared at my side. That was intense. It's not over, I replied, watching Lexi being escorted out. The criminal charges are just beginning. What about the company? Eugene's filing for emergency restoration of ownership tomorrow, but the damage to our reputation. We'll rebuild, Valeria said firmly. Your clients trust you, not her. As the ballroom emptied, Mom approached me, eyes red. Are you happy now? You've destroyed your sister's life. No, Mom, I stopped her from destroying more lives. I turned away, then paused. You might want to start canceling wedding vendors. Something tells me there won't be a ceremony next month. Walking out, I heard Dad calling my name, but I didn't turn back. The family I'd known was gone, shattered by Lexi's actions and years of enabling. But as I left the hotel, I felt lighter somehow. The truth was finally out. My phone buzzed, a text from Eugene. Ready for tomorrow's court appearance? Ready, I replied. Time to make it official. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived the next morning. Lexi's scandal had made the local news, and everyone wanted details about the socialite bride turned fraudster. Ms. Horton, they called out. How does it feel to be betrayed by your own sister? I pushed through with Valeria and Eugene flanking me. Inside, Bailey was already waiting. Heads up, he whispered. Mom's here with Lexi. She managed to post bail last night. How? I asked. Sold her jewelry collection, Bailey replied. Every last piece, including Grandma's diamonds. Before I could respond, Lexi appeared with her court-appointed attorney. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup. She looked small in her plain black suit, dark circles under her eyes. Livia, she said quietly. Can we talk? Please? I looked at Eugene, who nodded. 5 minutes. In there. He pointed to an empty conference room. Inside, Lexi's composure cracked. I can fix this. I just need more time. If you drop the charges, I cut her off. What about the investors? The people whose lives you nearly ruined? I'll pay them back. Eventually. She twisted her hands. I couldn't stand being the failure anymore. You were always so successful, and I was just me. So you stole my success instead of building your own? You don't understand. Everyone expected this amazing wedding. Caesar's family is wealthy. I had to prove I belonged. And now Caesar's gone, I said flatly. The money's gone. Your reputation's gone. Was it worth it? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm your sister. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything. That's why this hurts so much. A knock at the door. Eugene. They're ready for us. In the courtroom, Mom sat in the front row, clutching her purse. Dad wasn't there. According to Bailey, he hadn't spoken to anyone since yesterday. The judge reviewed the evidence, forged documents, bank transfers, investor testimonies. Lexi's attorney tried arguing for leniency, citing her clean record and family connections. Then the prosecutor stood up. Your Honor, we've received new evidence. Ms. Lexi Horton attempted to solicit additional investments yesterday, even after being confronted with her fraud. The judge's expression darkened. Is this true, Ms. Horton? Lexi looked at her attorney, then at Mom, then finally at me. Something in her broke. Yes, she whispered. It's all true. I stole the money. I forged the signatures. I lied to everyone. Mom let out a sob. The judge shuffled his papers. Given the admission of guilt and the severity of the charges, I'm setting this for criminal trial. In the meantime, regarding the emergency motion for business ownership restoration, he signed several documents. The company is returned to Ms. Livia Horton, effective immediately. Additionally, a restraining order is granted, preventing Ms. Lexi Horton from any contact with the business or its clients. Lexi slumped in her chair. Her attorney leaned over, whispering urgently about plea deals and cooperation agreements. As we left the courtroom, Mom blocked my path. How could you do this to your own sister? How could you enable her for so long? I shot back. This is where your favoritism led. She's facing prison time, Mom hissed. She's facing consequences, I corrected. Maybe for the first time in her life. Bailey appeared, touching my arm. Dad's here. He wants to see you both. We found him sitting in the courthouse garden, looking older than his years. I've been thinking, he said as we approached, about where we went wrong, how we created this mess. Robert, don't, Mom started. No, Stephanie, we did this. We taught Lexi that she could take whatever she wanted, that rules didn't apply to her, that her sister's success was somehow hers to claim. He stood up, facing me. I'm sorry, Livia, for every time we dismissed your hard work, for every time we made excuses for her behavior, for failing both of you as a father. Mom started crying again, but this time they were different tears. Reality was finally sinking in. The investors, Dad continued, how much do they need? 7 million total, I replied, plus interest. He nodded. I'm selling the house. It won't cover everything, but it's a start. Your mother and I will find an apartment. Robert, Mom gasped. It's done, Stephanie. We helped create this mess. We'll help fix it. As they walked away, Valeria touched my shoulder. You okay? I watched my parents leave, thinking about family dinners that would never happen again, holidays that would be forever changed, trust that might never be rebuilt. No, I answered honestly, but I will be. My phone buzzed. Eugene had sent the court documents officially returning my company. It felt like the end of something, but also the beginning. Let's go, I told Valeria. We have a business to rebuild. 3 weeks later, I sat in my office reviewing the damage reports. Most clients had stayed loyal after learning the truth, but rebuilding trust took time. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. There's someone here to see you, Valeria said softly. One of the investors. The elderly woman who entered looked familiar. She'd been at Lexi's investor meeting. Her name was Margaret, and she'd lost her retirement savings. I wanted to thank you, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. The first repayment came through yesterday. I nodded. Dad sold the house. The money's being distributed proportionally to all investors. That's not why I'm here. Margaret leaned forward. Your sister's sentencing is tomorrow. Will you be there? My stomach tightened. I haven't decided. I'll be there, she said, not out of anger anymore, but because someone needs to witness consequences. My late husband always said that's how people learn. My phone buzzed, Bailey calling. Excuse me, I said to Margaret, answering the call. Liv, his voice was urgent. Mom's at my apartment. You need to come. 20 minutes later, I walked into Bailey's living room to find Mom surrounded by photo albums, mascara streaking her face. Look at these. She thrust a photo at me. Lexi's 5th birthday. You helped her blow out the candles. You were always protecting her, and now I'm protecting everyone else from her, I finished. Mom, this isn't helping. They're saying 5 to 7 years, she whispered. My baby girl? Bailey caught my eye, mouthing, Dad's coming. Sure enough, Dad arrived minutes later. He looked different, thinner, grayer, but somehow stronger. Stephanie, he said gently, the apartment's ready. We should go. I'm not leaving my photos. The photos can come, he assured her, but we need to face tomorrow with dignity, for both our daughters. Mom looked up at me. Will you be there? Please, Livia. She's asking for you. I thought of Margaret's words about witnessing consequences. Yes, I said finally. I'll be there. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. Investors, former wedding guests, local media. Caesar sat in the back looking uncomfortable but determined. Lexi entered in handcuffs, wearing prison orange. She'd lost weight, her designer highlights growing out. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. The judge cleared his throat. Ms. Lexi Horton, you stand convicted of multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. Before sentencing, you may make a statement. Lexi stood shakily. I've had time to think in jail, about who I am and what I've done. To the investors, I'm sorry. To my fiancé, I'm sorry. To my parents, I'm sorry. She turned to face me. And to my sister, I'm most sorry to you. I didn't steal your business because I needed it. I stole it because I wanted to be you, strong, successful, respected. But I took the easy way, and I destroyed everything. The judge nodded. Given your cooperation in recovering funds and your guilty plea, I sentence you to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. You will continue to make restitution to your victims. Mom started crying. Dad held her hand. Bailey squeezed my shoulder. As they led Lexi away, she called out, "Livia, the journals. In my room. Please read them." That evening, I sat in my childhood bedroom reading Lexi's journals. Pages and pages of comparison, jealousy, and twisted admiration. The last entry, dated just before the theft, read, "Maybe if I take her life, I'll finally be worth something." A text from Caesar. "Just checked on the last investor repayments. Your parents' house sale covered 60%. I'm selling the ring to help with the rest." Another from Eugene. "Final paperwork filed. Your company's legally protected now. No one can ever transfer ownership without multiple verifications." And finally, one from Bailey. "Mom's settling into the apartment. Dad's talking about therapy. For all of us, if you're interested." I closed Lexi's journal and looked around my old room. Photos of 2 sisters who used to share secrets and dreams. Now one sat in prison while the other picked up the pieces. My phone buzzed again. "Margaret, thank you for being there today. Healing starts with truth." I texted back, "Thank you for showing me what strength looks like." Standing up, I gathered Lexi's journals. 5 years was a long time, long enough for healing, maybe even forgiveness, but not today. Today was for rebuilding, one piece at a time. As I left my childhood home for the last time, I deleted the draft message I'd been holding on to. "I forgive you." Some words needed to be earned, not given. And Lexi had 5 years to earn them. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the final investor repayment reports. Every cent had been returned, with interest. The last check, written by Dad from his retirement fund, had cleared yesterday. My phone buzzed. A text from Bailey. "Turn on the news." I clicked the TV on just in time to see Lexi being interviewed from prison. She looked different, humbler, her designer aesthetic replaced by simple prison clothes and no makeup. "I deserved this sentence," she was saying. "My sister wasn't just protecting her business, she was protecting people from me. I see that now." Valeria walked in, carrying coffee. "Is that—" "Yeah," I muted the TV. "First interview since sentencing." "Have you read her letters?" I glanced at the stack of unopened envelopes on my desk. One for every week she'd been inside. "Not yet." "Your mom called," Valeria said softly. "The therapy sessions are helping. Your dad's even starting to smile again." The intercom buzzed. "Miss Horton, Margaret is here to see you." Margaret walked in, looking energized. Behind her came several other former investors. "We have a proposal," she said, sitting down. "Those of us who got our money back, we want to reinvest. Properly this time, in your company." I blinked. "After everything that happened?" "Because of everything that happened," another investor spoke up. "You showed integrity when it mattered most. That's rare in business." My phone buzzed again. Cesar this time. "Saw Lexi's interview. She meant every word. The woman I fell in love with never existed, but maybe the one she's becoming does." A knock at my door revealed Eugene with more papers. "Final legal clearance came through. Your company's protection protocols are ironclad now. No one can ever pull this kind of theft again. I looked at the investors, then at the letters from Lexi, then at the TV where my sister's interview was still playing silently. Before we discuss investment terms, I said to Margaret, I need 30 minutes. Alone in my office, I opened the first letter from Lexi. Dear Livia, prison gives you time to think. Too much time. I think about how I spent my whole life competing with you instead of learning from you, how I chose shortcuts instead of hard work, how I blamed you for being better instead of trying to be better myself. The second letter. The therapist here says I have narcissistic tendencies, that I saw your success as something I could steal rather than earn. She's right. The third. Mom visited today. She's different, stronger somehow. Dad too. Maybe we're all growing. Letter after letter showed change. Real change. Not excuses or manipulation, but genuine reflection. My phone rang. Mom. I saw the interview, she said quietly. Did you? Yes. She's different, Livia. The entitled girl we created. She's gone. Your father and I were trying to be different too. I know, Mom. Will you ever forgive us? I looked at the investors waiting in my lobby, at Valeria managing the day's tasks, at Eugene organizing legal protections for my company's future. I already have, I replied, but trust takes longer than forgiveness. That's fair, Mom said. Oh, Bailey's here for dinner. We're cooking together now, can you believe it? Would you like to join us? I thought about declining, about maintaining distance, but healing happens in small steps. Text me the address, I said. I'll bring dessert. After hanging up, I buzzed Valeria. Send the investors in and call Margaret's financial advisor. We'll need help structuring this properly. As people filed in, I opened my laptop to draft one final email. Dear Lexi, I saw your interview. I've read your letters. You're right. You deserved consequences. But you also deserve the chance to rebuild, just like I did. Just like our family is doing. I can't forget what happened, but I'm choosing to focus on what's happening now. Mom and Dad are healing. The investors are whole. My business is stronger. And you're finally doing the work to become someone better. I'm not ready to visit yet, but I'm ready to read your letters. Keep writing. Livia. I hit send, then turned to the investors. Let's talk about building something together. The right way this time. As the meeting began, I glanced at the TV. They were replaying Lexi's final quote. Success isn't something you take, it's something you earn. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it. I turned back to my future, ready to earn whatever came next.